Wednesday, May 6th. All right. Looks like we're having good connection. Let me get this weird AI bullshit off the screen. All right. Welcome in, everyone. My name is Angelina Tucci. This is my broadcast where I cover local news. Today, we are going to be going over the debate that happened last night, that crazy debate that we live streamed, had like a crap ton of viewers in chat. It was crazy. It was fun. We were having a great time. Left, right, everyone was having a good time in chat, and I was having a good time. So let's get into it. Let's watch some of the recaps. Let's watch this from CBS LA.
Well, things got heated as the top 7 gubernatorial candidates went at it for 2 hours at a CNN debate.
It's critical time for candidates with ballots out now and just under 4 weeks to Election Day. And they spent this debate trying to appeal to undecided voters without holding back.
Hey, Stardust City Hack, good to see you. Welcome in. Hope you are doing fantastic. I sure am. Who do you think won the debate last night? Because I don't know who won the debate. I really don't know who won. I don't know who. I can tell you, like, who did better, who did somewhat good, well, let's just watch this. And then we can form an opinion better.
I think we should police Donald Trump's masked mercenary force that they call ICE.
The governor of California should hold people accountable who break the laws of California, specifically including ICE agents.
No one has broken the law in California. And this is why we fight in the streets and people are out rioting, burning down Los Angeles, because politicians like this sit and lie to everyone.
Down.
It's the job of the governor to protect every single Californian, period. There are no
Stardust City Hack said, so that's what they look like. My bad. My bad. Yeah, I would say that this is by far all of the candidates were best dressed, were like actually had makeup on. I'm pretty sure everyone was looking good. So Katie Porter's been looking a lot better. She just needs to blend that foundation down to her chest. But yeah, everyone was on point. Like no one looked like crap. Matt Mahan sounded like crap, but
Are you doing that by having a sanctuary state policy? Absolutely not.
Well, a clear divide from Republicans to Democrats. They took many jabs at the one person rising recently in the polls. We're talking about Democrat Javier Becerra. But when it came to the economy and the cost of living, there was even more divide.
Isaac Hale, Occidental College professor of politics, joining us now with his reaction. This is like your Super Bowl, isn't it? You've got all these debates going on.
It's very exciting.
Is it?
It is.
Okay, so with 7 candidates on stage, as we saw last night,
let's watch
2
these
Republicans,
nerds.
5 Democrats. Did anybody stand out to you?
I don't think there was a clear winner, and I think it continues a lot of the story of this race so
Occidental
far,
College
which is that Democrats
professor
are
of
pretty
politics.
divided in a really big field. And with California's unusual top 2 system, Democratic voters have to be strategic to avoid the 2 Republicans, Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton, from advancing to the November election.
All right. Well, Isaac, some describe this debate as a slugfest. The candidates, you
Wow.
were talking over each other, trading personal attacks. I mean, it is entertaining, we have to admit, right?
It was
Did
entertaining.
this make or break any one particular candidate's campaign?
I don't think it did. And I think the description as a slugfest is accurate. The candidates were feistier this time around.
Yes.
And part of this is driven by there being so many candidates on stage and them having so little time to talk.
Right.
They have to get their jabs in if they want to be remembered by voters. I don't think there was a clear winner. There were lots of attacks coming on new frontrunner, Javier Becerra, former HHS secretary. We saw attacks about his tenure as HHS secretary.
Under the Biden administration.
Exactly.
Yep.
We saw attacks about flip-flopping on single-payer health care, particularly coming from Representative Katie Porter. But I think it's still anybody's guess who is going to rise to the top in this field, although we see in the polling that there are a few candidates like Steyer, Becerra, Hilton, and Bianco that seem to be sort of in the double digits, whereas a few others like former Representative Katie Porter, Mayor Matt Mahan, former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, who seem to be lagging a little more.
Yeah. Villaraigosa also feisty last night, too. He came out swinging. I'm trying to, I think, maybe boost himself a little bit there, right? With Becerra kind of taking lead in the polling.
He sure was. And I
he
think
was
for
just
those
there
candidates
with
in
a
the single
bat.
digits, like Porter or like Villaraigosa, they really need a moment.
Yeah.
And if last night didn't deliver the key moment that's going to make their campaign, they're going to need to get it tonight.
Okay. Isaac, there was a clear ideological split. We saw Republicans leaning into anti-democratic messaging, Democrats, of course, slamming President Trump. Are they focused enough on California-specific issues that people really care about?
I think that's a great question. I think you did see in the discussion of healthcare, in the discussion around a few other topics, including housing, that there was some California-centric discussion. But there was, I think, a notable absence in the discussion of how the last 8 years under Governor Gavin Newsom went. We got candidates asked to give a one-word response to how they felt about Newsom's tenure, but we didn't really see a real substantive discussion. So hopefully going forward, we'll see more reflection about
Stardust City Hag said, seeing a lot of hate for candidates who are polling low and sticking around. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with the hate they're getting. They need to like get it together or get out. And I definitely throwing Matt Mahan into that category.
Candidates feels about the state of California.
It's kind of a weird position to be in, though, right? Attacking a governor that may be running for president in your same party as you're trying to take his seat.
It's very difficult, and in the current environment, especially with as polarizing a figure as President Trump is, all politics are national.
That's true. Good point.
Okay, another debate tonight. What do they do differently?
What? There's another
Again, I
debate
think those
today?
candidates who are
Holy
lagging
shit.
really need to stand out.
Hold on. I need to look that up. That's crazy. I swear, if it's CNN again, I swear to God, if it's CNN again. Wait, hold on. Let's just finish watching that video and let them explain.
Out moment. I think you'll continue to see Steyer and Becerra really going after each other. They're really duking it out to see who can make it to the November election. Hilton, one of the Republicans, seems like a near lock to make the second round at this point. So the big question is, which Democrat is going to rise to the top? And Democratic voters are maybe
Okay, hold on. We'll find out. We'll just let this
be holding off on voting, maybe looking at what's going on and seeing who is it that's going to be best positioned in November.
Okay,
as always.
I know, so much to watch and talk about.
And of course, we'll see you again tomorrow.
I'll be back.
To talk about what happens tonight.
All right, thank you so much. You can find information on the key races in the June 2nd primary on our website. Just head to cbsla.com/votersguide.
Hold on, we gotta find out where this is gonna be broadcast. Is it at Pomona College again? No. Oh, Tuesday, April 20. Yeah. No, we're in May already. I keep forgetting. Oh, okay. We'll figure this out. But in the meantime, thank you, CBS LA and Professor what was his name? Hale, I think, for that decent
we grew up
review on the debate.
Missing and
Oh yeah, this was live. I don't know if we want to watch this. Maybe let's continue with the. We'll leave
as a Californian yourself. What did you make of?
Here we go. Let's see this CNN. I think this was streamed immediately, or broadcast immediately after the debate, and we had already ended our broadcast here. Let's watch this.
How they differentiated themselves tonight in this crowded field.
Well, look, I mean, I thought that Tom Steyer, his experience showed. He's run for president. They tried to jump on him a couple of times. He's a conviction politician, and if you like, strong left-wing politics, he was your guy. The problem we have in California is we produce more billionaires than any nation or state, and we resent the hell out of them. And so I'm not sure how many people are going to stick with him because he's a billionaire. I thought Matt Mahan showed a breath of fresh air. He's a young guy. He's new to politics. He was pragmatic. But I think Becerra didn't do himself much good. I think he looked pretty squirrely on the Medicare for All issue. He was a little bit squirrely on some other stuff. He's been the rising star because of Swalwell getting out. I don't think he helped himself tonight.
There were a couple of dynamics. I mean, there's the Trump of it all, which we'll definitely get to. But for the Democrats, the five of them on the stage, I do think that in a state like California, you've got a lot of progressives. They're very liberal. But there's definitely a sense that they know people want some change. They know that Californians think things are not going so swimmingly in the state. Something's got to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Prices are high there. They each had to say something about the previous governor. You also have a situation where I think a lot of Democrats don't feel like this is the ideal ticket. That you don't have people on the stage that people are in love with. Right. Eric Swalwell dropped out of the race because he had sexual assault allegations against him. There are some major changes that need to happen within the Democratic Party. It's a moment of reckoning for the Democratic Party in California. But I do think that overall issues like the cost of living, affordability, healthcare, all of these things are still things that people care about in California, and there needs to be major change. And it's not just policies because of the president and the war. It is policies because the governor will be likely be on the presidential ballot in 2028. And so this is also a referendum on him. Brad?
I think you're right, Sochi, about that's a California good Democrats do have to stare it in the face what has been happening inside the California Democratic Party that's led to the affordability challenges. Democrats all across the country this year have decided to try to make the election about affordability, but the most Democratic state in the country is the most unaffordable state. That's why 1.23 million people have moved out of the state and moved into places like Nashville and Texas. And so, I only heard Matt Mahan tonight talk about affordability in a real pragmatic way of what he could do about it. He talked about eliminating the CEQA process, which is an environmental review process that makes infrastructure construction impossible. He talks a little bit about the tax problem, about how California is one of the highest tax states. I thought Katie Porter might have had a lane to do that tonight, but I didn't see it from her.
Well, let me play what she said about the billionaire tax. It's been so controversial in California. Listen.
This tax isn't going to fundamentally change California's economy in the way that young people and the working people of California need. It's a one-time tax, but we don't have one-time revenue needs. It taxes billionaires, as if half billionaires don't have two nickels to rub together and couldn't chip in a little bit more. So yes, to a progressive tax code. Yes, to the wealthy paying more, but this tax is about cheap political points. It is not about really fundamentally changing California's economy for the better. That's going to take real political courage.
Billionaires like me should pay more taxes, and the big corporations should pay more taxes.
Excuse me,
and
you
that's
literally
why,
said...
if this proposition is on the ballot in November, I'll vote for it.
Oh my God.
But going forward, we do need to go further. This is a one-time tax, and it also doesn't spread the money across the government the way everything else does.
Yeah, that was one of those times they're kind of trying to jump on Tom Steyer, but he actually did pretty well for himself. So.
Well, if you support the billionaire tax, which actually maybe many Californians do. I think Katie Porter is betting that some Californians, they want a progressive tax system, but they think that this is like a 2x4 hitting their sort of tax-paying population over the head.
I live in Miami, and I can tell you almost every week right now there is some California billionaire who comes out as having broken a real estate record for buying a house in Miami that cost $200 million because they are all fleeing the state before a certain deadline, a year deadline, and establishing homesteads in Florida. So that's not helping the California economy. There are so many industries that have left California. The movie industry, which is so symbolic of California. Most of the productions are right now happening overseas or in other states like New Mexico. It's happening in Canada. It's cheaper to fly people and film a movie in Scotland than it is to do so in California. So they are having very big issues. I think out of all of those people on the stage, somebody needed to stand out. That did not happen. I cannot believe I sat through 2 hours of them bickering instead of drinking margaritas at La Palapa tonight on Cinco de Mayo.
What?
I do think,
you couldn't provide the margaritas.
These things are not mutually exclusive.
We definitely should have had some margaritas on set.
Listen, Tom Steyer's a progressive, and even though he's taken all the money from the coal companies, as Katie Porter keeps saying, he's now an environmentalist and all of that. So I guess you like him. I have a hard time thinking that a state that is 40% Latino, that is pissed off at billionaires, that thinks they're not paying their fair share, is going to vote for Tom Steyer. It's obvious to me that Javier Becerra has inherited the Swalwell vote, that he's on the ascent, and that's why he was being hit on like a piñata, to go back to my Cinco de Mayo
oh my God,
tonight by everybody.
Let's talk about the two Republicans who were on the stage. Steve Hilton, a recent California transplant from the UK, and Chad Bianco, who's a sheriff. Let me just show you the polls, because I think that to understand where we are here, Steve Hilton is sort of nominally at the top of this pack, to put it mildly. But this is all within the margin of error. We don't really know where this is going right now. But Hilton has the Trump endorsement. Yeah. He was asked about whether or not he would support mass deportations. Didn't want to say. So how do you leverage a Trump endorsement to a victory in a state like California where Trump is so unpopular?
Yeah, it's a difficult puzzle to solve. Although I had to say for Hilton, I didn't know much about him before I started following this campaign. I interviewed him yesterday on my radio show. He's quite articulate about asking the right questions, which is this: if the state is failed.
Hold on, we disconnected real quick. I think it's good chat. Sorry. Hopefully we're gonna have better connection now.
Of all these problems, is it a good idea to have one party rule for so long? And Hilton, I think, has articulated that. I asked him yesterday, is it possible for a Republican to get elected governor of California? He has a way to lay out the math that shows, yes, you could attract independents and even some disaffected Democrats who are sort of fed up with the fact that they live in a state that's beautiful and has all these things going for it, but has been so mismanaged that people hate living here so much that they're fleeing to Miami and other places.
Yeah, but people
watching
always
this debate
leave
tonight,
California.
watching Democrats argue with each other about how to raise more taxes, how to further ruin health care, how to let in more illegal immigrants. It makes you believe that someone like Steve Hilton, if you just articulate the right questions, sometimes that can get you pretty far in a campaign.
Scott. The only way a Republican wins in California is if it is somehow out of this crazy jungle primary, 2 Republicans make it. But if there is one Democrat against Steve Hilton, whether it's Tom Steyer, whether it's Javier Becerra, that Democrat is going to win.
And my response to that is you're probably right. But my question is that a good thing? Is it a good thing for California to continue to just vote for the same party that has created all these problems that everyone seems to agree to exist?
Look, you're at a boiling point right now in California where if an outsider with the right message came along, Arnold Schwarzenegger did that, you could get there. Unfortunately, it is a non-starter to have somebody who will not acknowledge that Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden in 2020. He just basically took himself out of the running. If he would just moderate on anything at all, he would have the opportunity, or anybody would have the opportunity to point out a lot of stuff is not working. But that's not going to happen. You are correct. Snoopy, a Twinkie running against a Republican in California will win in California if the Republican is saying Donald Trump.
Katie Porter may put that to the test, though. I mean, she's one of the worst political athletes we've seen in a large state.
Give the woman some credit. She spent the whole night trying to be nice.
She's one of the least likable, most uninteresting politicians we see rise to the top in a large state. All the New England states eventually elect a Republican governor. Massachusetts did it for like 20 years in a row. The voters know that the legislature's got things under control from their ideological perspective, and they send some adult supervision. You see it sometimes in the South. Steve Beshear in Scott's home state, a Democrat governor in a Republican state. Eventually, it will happen in California because the legislature will manage the state to the point where the voters have no other choice. I don't know if it's this year or not.
Wow. Okay. That, these people are not giving good analysis, I hate to say.
Without even knowing that there's other options.
Let's watch this from the Rational National about Tom Steyer.
Should pay more taxes, and the big corporations should pay more taxes.
Last night was a debate between the candidates for the governor's race in California, and it appears a billionaire is the left-wing champion.
That's crazy.
So I'm going to get into some of the clips from this debate. What I'm learning about Tom Steyer over the last few weeks, who ran briefly in the presidential election, or I should say the Democratic primary in 2020. And I'll get to what Bernie Sanders was saying about him back then, because I covered that whole race when it was happening. And did not expect Tom Steyer to, 6 years later, appear to be the choice, the correct choice for the governor of California. So let me first start with this clip. This is between Katie Porter and Tom Steyer. And Katie probably regrets this moment.
I have said that billionaires like me should pay more taxes and the big corporations should pay more taxes.
Excuse me,
and
you
that's
literally
why,
said...
if this proposition is on the ballot in November, I'll vote for it. But going forward, we do need to go further. This is a one-time tax, and it also doesn't spread the money across the government the way everything else does. And specifically, it doesn't go to education and teachers and students, which is a critical need in the state of California. The tax I'm proposing to close a corporate real estate tax loophole is more money, and it's spread.
I have not.
Balanced two budgets. Congressman.
I'm confused. Do you support the billionaire's tax that is going to be on the ballot in November, yes or no?
Katie, I just said I will vote for it if it's on the ballot in November. So what I've said is,
but you just said it wasn't a good idea.
Go far enough that, in fact, it is a one-time tax, and it also doesn't spread the money throughout the government.
All right, so I can't really blame Katie Porter for being confused, because we don't often see a billionaire say that, yes, I support a tax on myself. And it is a policy that he has supported before. Like, it's not as if this came out during the debate. This was well known, so Katie Porter should have already been aware of his support of it. But he's calling for even more in terms of addressing corporate tax loopholes. But this gets to how I'm not just basing how I'm feeling about this California governor race based on this one debate. I've been reading others' opinions, people who are experts. We'll get to a climate activist later. Bill McKibben, well-known climate activist, well-respected, also has endorsed Tom Steyer. So this appears to be the consensus vote for the left. This from Common Dreams here from Jeff Cohen. I detest billionaires. My journey to supporting one for governor of California. Make no mistake about it, corporate lobbyists are horrified that Tom Steyer might become California's governor. Despite myself, he may just be the class traitor we've been waiting for. So one of the biggest indications of who you can trust is finding out what people or groups are against that person. So Tom Steyer lays out a pretty good case in this interview with Zateo.
I said to you earlier, sometimes when you know someone's enemies, you know what they stand for. And if you look, Betty, if you look at the people who have been calling me out, Donald Trump, the head of ICE, electric monopolies who are trying their heads off to retain their legal monopoly to overcharge Californians, big oil companies who are ripping us off at the pump, who have been polluting. I mean, one of the things I say is polluters pay. Realtors, because they're afraid I will drive down the cost of housing. I will make it possible for people in California to make ends meet at the end of the month and buy a house. Yeah, those people are all opposing me and only me. And I would say to you, look, I'm the only progressive on this ballot. I'm the only change agent on this ballot. And I can prove it because all the people who stand for what I can't stand are against me, and I take it as a compliment.
Now, I get the skepticism because we're talking about somebody who is a billionaire. And by the very nature of becoming a billionaire, at some point he had to step on people to get there. But if you're now going to use that power to be a class traitor and to actually stand up for the most amount of people, and I mean, again, this is not me saying this. I'm reading opinions from people who historically have been on the correct side of issues, have fought for the correct people. The nurses union has endorsed him. Same union that endorsed Bernie Sanders both in 2016 and 2020. We'll get to his healthcare clip in a second here. But it's just hard for me to I don't know, internalize this. Actually, the best person in this race, it appears, is in fact a billionaire.
Yeah,
so
that's.
Going on
I
from,
think a lot
Jeff
of people
Cohen's
are
piece in
struggling with
Common
that.
Dreams, he writes here. A month ago, after seeing Steyer's anti-APAC video attacking Democratic leaders for failing to forcefully oppose Trump's war, I started an intense dialogue with progressives across California, including journalists, experienced activists, organizational leaders. Almost all, somewhat surprisingly or confusedly or embarrassingly, were arriving at the same conclusion. The billionaire Tom Steyer is the best choice for governor. And that's kind of how I've arrived at this too. I'm confused, but it definitely appears that's the case. Here is Tom Steyer discussing his support for single-payer healthcare.
I believe everybody in California has a right to healthcare. But the truth of the matter is, it is eating up our budget. And it's more than that, Alex. It is eating up every single family. You talked about how many people are giving up healthcare so they can make rent. You're talking about businesses that can't compete because healthcare is so expensive. And it is eating up the budget of the state of California. When people sit here and say, let's do the same thing, we can't afford to do the same thing. It is eating up our budget. Look at the numbers. That's why I changed my mind, Katie, because I looked at the facts. Single-payer healthcare systems cost half as much as the system in total that we have now. And yes, it's going to be a big job to get us to single payer. But the truth is, we don't have a choice because right now people are suffering. They're giving up healthcare. Every medical crisis turns into a financial disaster. The truth is, we don't have a choice but to go to single payer. And you need somebody who's going to fight for it. And the person who's going to fight for it.
Why do they cost less, though? To clarify, Mr. Steyer, on the question of health care for the undocumented,
I said everybody in California has a right to health care. And let's answer this.
California should fund that.
The truth of the matter is,
yes,
immigrants built this state. Immigrants make this state run. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, we had a broken immigration system, and now you want to victimize the people who are working here and making this state run.
Thank you,
As Antonio said, try and get rid of them. You can't do it.
Now, I got to say, I am a little annoyed that the points he is making here are the same points Bernie was making back in 2020 when Tom Steyer was not for single-payer healthcare. If he just did the research at the time when Bernie was making the points and actually maybe believe what Bernie was saying, he would have come to this conclusion years ago. But whatever, he's there now. As Common Dream writes, Steyer's unequivocal support for CalCare universal health coverage is one of the reasons he's endorsed by Rokana and the California Nurses Association, and why Roots Action, which I co-founded, came out in support last week. And this gets me to what Bernie was saying back then, because I covered it. Bernie reacts to billionaire Tom Steyer entering 2020 primary. Here is Bernie's comments back then, and I'll get to what the group that he founded, what they're saying now.
Tom Steyer, the billionaire who's made a cause of impeachment. What do you think about him entering the race with all of his money?
Well, I have known Tom for a number of years, and I like Tom personally. But I do have to say, as somebody who in this campaign has received 2 million campaign contributions, averaging, I believe, $19 a person, I am a bit tired of seeing billionaires trying to buy political power. So I like Tom. He is a good guy. He's a friend of mine. But I'm not a great fan of billionaires getting involved in the political process.
And look, that's a point that I think is still fair to make today. Tom Steyer, if he actually does believe what he is saying, and again, based on what I'm reading, based on what he has been saying, based on the endorsements he has received, I do believe he actually is the person that he's claiming to be. But if he is that person, he's an outlier. billionaires should not be able to just buy themselves into a race or buy another politician to raise their profile. But there ain't a lot of options in this California governor's race. Katie Porter at one time, it seemed like she'd be a great candidate for this. Has sort of fallen off over the last few years. And there's not really anybody else. So this has gotten us to progressive group founded by Bernie Sanders endorses a billionaire for California governor.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's a funny headline, but it is what it is. It does appear to be the right choice. I want to play for you now. This is another clip from the debate where Tom Steyer is calling for something that the Democratic Socialist leader in Canada of the NDP, Avi Lewis, is also calling for.
This war in Iran has driven up the gas by at least $1.50. And the truth is, we should be taxing the oil companies because they are getting a windfall profit as a result of the war that the president that they put into office started for no apparent reason. We should be taxing that money. We should send it directly to Californians' pockets, not to the government of California. And let me say this, being in bed with oil companies is a mistake. Javier Becerra has taken the max amount of money from Chevron, and he has said they're good guys that we need. The truth of the matter is the oil companies are ripping us off at the pump, they're polluting our air, and they're burning up the planet.
Tom Steyer calling for a windfall profits tax on big oil. Again, as I said, Avi Lewis in Canada, the leader of the NDP, is also calling for this, who is a Democratic Socialist. I'm not sure how Tom Steyer, if he defines himself in any sort of ideological way, but it's a great policy. It's a no-brainer. And you have Javier Becerra, the former Biden HHS secretary, who's also one of the main candidates in this race. Big disappointment. His loyalty, as Bill McKibben writes here, lies with fossil fuels. So Bill McKibben is one of the more prominent, more respected environmental writers.
Is this why? I guess that makes sense why Javier Becerra was so for the gas tax, right? He's like, somebody's got to pay for these roads, and it's going to be the people, not the oil companies, right? Man, such a disappointment.
Endorsed Tom Steyer. Writing here, the California chapters of Third Act, a group of Americans over 60 that I helped found, canvassed their members last month and issued an endorsement of Tom Steyer on the grounds that he had worked hard over the years to address energy and climate issues. Instead of taking money from big oil, he's given money, time, and counsel to those of us volunteering in the fight against the industry. I mean, it's hard to argue against voices like Bill McKibben. So I think I got one or two more clips here. On ICE, yeah. Tom Steyer. Fantastic answer here on CNN.
The governor of California should hold people accountable who break the laws of California, specifically including ICE agents and the people who send them to racially profile, which is illegal, and use violence against Californians, which is illegal. And it should go up the chain to the supervisors, right up to Stephen Miller. If he's sending people to racially profile and hurt Californians or kill Californians, he should be held liable. It is not legal for federal agents to come to California and break the law. It is absolutely critical that California's governor does stand up for everyone in California. That in fact, ICE to me is a criminal operation. I've said all along, we should abolish ICE. It's breaking the law. It is coming here deliberately to break the law. And that's why I'm saying we should hold them accountable. We should inspect the detention centers that they have in secret.
So just to
we
clarify,
should have a
Mr.
legal
Steyer,
defense fund. Yes, I do. I don't know. I would go all the way up the chain. I've gone as far as Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller should be held accountable for what the ICE agents do in California that he sends.
Incredible response here. He's exactly right. Now, of course, the question is, will he hold this same anger, this same position if he does become governor? That's fair to ask. It's fair to be skeptical of somebody who is a billionaire. But again, I base how I'm feeling about this largely on the support we're seeing from people like Bill McKibben, Nurses Union, left-wing activist groups, other more progressive or left of center politicians like Ro Khanna, who's endorsed him. Based on all of that, I think the choice in California at this point is clear. But let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and check out some of the other videos I have.
Okay, let's watch some of Hassan's takes on the debate last night.
California. The Golden State's top job is up for grabs as Gavin Newsom exits after
both Republican.
Versus those who are trying to buy it. Democrats vying to break away from the path.
Billionaire who wants to tax billionaires.
I am the only candidate who does not take corporate contributions.
If I have something, it's experience.
I want to make government work for people.
God, I hate all these candidates. I mean, honestly, they're all dog shit. Tom Steyer is the only one that's like interesting out of all these candidates. I mean, there's two Republicans on there, Bianco and Hilton, obviously. One of them is British. The other one's a sheriff. I don't know what's worse. They're also both Republican. But ultimately, ultimately, yeah, Javier Becerra is terrible. No, I do not support him.
Damn.
Does it not even cause a little bit of concern that Javier Becerra, all of the people that were pushing for what's his face, Swalwell, immediately went to Becerra.
Yeah.
They're all
that
worried about
was
Steyer.
I tried to be hopeful about it.
Javier Becerra is a oil industry lobbyist, basically.
And around the world.
Yeah, SEIU endorsed Swalwell. They also endorsed Becerra, but
And this is the CNN California governor primary debate. I'm Caitlin Collins.
And I'm Alex Michelson. Tonight, you'll hear from 7 candidates.
It's crazy that I know both of these people now.
In the nation
That's crazy.
And manage the 4th largest economy in the world. Early voting is already underway. Ballots are now being cast. And a reminder that the top 2 finishers, regardless of party, advance to the general election.
Did you call Becerra an oil industry lobbyist? I said he's basically an oil industry lobbyist.
On stage here tonight, and this race is wide open.
The candidates are former Los Angeles Mayor, Democrat Antonio Villaraigosa, former Congresswoman, Democrat Katie Porter, businessman, Democrat Tom Steyer, businessman and former television host, Republican Steve Hilton, Riverside County Sheriff.
That SEIU does, like, no disrespect, but just endorse one or don't endorse anybody.
Yes, that's exactly what I posted in my stories the other day, or yesterday actually. It's like, what? SEIU endorsed 2 candidates? Bruh.
Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It's so whack, dude. It's like, American labor unions, Jesus Christ.
Population between 2024 and 2025. Secretary Becerra,
They pulled back the Wiener endorsement in San Francisco.
Why do Democrats deserve another 4 years in charge?
Caitlin, because Democrats are the ones that aspire to include everyone and not leave anyone behind. Like my parents, who came with $12 in their pocket to California, and they lived the California dream. My 3 sisters and I, we got to live the California dream. But it doesn't come easy. You have to work hard. My mother today still shops with coupons, and you learn that when you watch that growing up. And I know that my job as Attorney General, as Secretary of Health and Human Services, is always to help people like my parents who are working hard. And that's why I fought for our families, made sure that when Donald Trump was attacking us the first time, we went toe-to-toe with him more than 120 times. I had to sue Donald Trump to keep him from destroying our state of California. When I was Secretary of Health and Human Services, we expanded access to healthcare to more Americans than ever in the history of the country. We were able to negotiate lower drug prices for the first time in history for Medicare, and we proved that we could drop prices by up to 80%. If we fight to make California affordable, people will stay and they will come to this great state.
Thank you, Secretary Becerra.
Against me, and that proves it. I'm the change agent, and I'm the progressive.
Mayor Mahan, what's your response?
Well, Caitlin, we deserve better. I'm the only Democrat in this race who has challenged the establishment within my own party to demand better results.
I'm glad he likes. I mean, I'm glad that he
thousands
hates
of homes that are now under construction.
Too.
Led our city to
he's
reduce
so
homelessness
boring.
faster than any
so
other
annoying.
city. We don't need MAGA values, but we also don't need more of the same. There's a lot of talk on this stage, but we should be honest. The experience we hear from Secretary Becerra didn't lead to better outcomes. It led to 85,000 migrant children who were lost, more fraud in our healthcare system. Tom Steyer's making a lot of false promises up here, things that the legislature already rejected because we don't know how to pay for them. We need pragmatic.
See, oh God, there it is. Thank God he said it. I don't even need to say it for him. Now you get his vibes.
We were paycheck to paycheck growing up.
Better things are not possible, candidate Mahan. Okay.
Mr. Steyer,
terrible. Yeah.
I absolutely do. I will, on the first day, call a special election to close a corporate real estate tax loophole that's worth over $20 billion.
It's convenient to close it after you've profited from it.
The truth is,
oh my God,
the
I forgot.
California
She was just
government
like,
needs more money because
see right there, he should be like, yeah, I know the system better than anybody else. Okay, I became endlessly wealthy as a consequence of it.
Teachers and students, and I'm the
now
only person
I want to stop others, and I want to shut it off for myself too.
To have a system that actually works for California.
So raising taxes.
Mr. Hilton, can I get you to weigh in on this
I just
prospect?
can't listen to Steyer when he talks. It's just so old man.
We've already seen a couple of things that we'll probably see a lot of in this debate, which is the Democrats.
Boo! You're British. You're British. You're British. Boo! You're British. You're British. I don't want to hear it. Oh,
thank you.
England, lad.
Look, I was asked how I'm preparing.
Go back to fucking England.
The meetings, the thousands of people that have come to our events the last year in California. I've traveled to every part of the state.
No. We can't be having this.
The dream is my dream, and I want that for every single one of you watching out there.
We
can get it
yeah,
back.
sure, buddy.
Invoke MAGA values.
We did not do the American Revolution to be led by a Brit.
Of President Trump's job performance. Why should voters who are unhappy with the performance of the president vote for the candidate that he's endorsed in this race?
So they should vote for the candidate.
Democrats that brought us here. But I can also.
Oh, okay, I kind of don't want to watch this. I just realized I don't want to watch this at all.
Damn.
Like, bro, your state is a nightmare. It really is. It's so dog shit. My state's politics is so ass, dude. Maybe that's why I'm constantly traveling out of state to go help others elsewhere.
Oh no.
My
Hassan's
own
going to be
backyard
one
is
of those
ass.
billionaires that leaves California. Oh, no. Don't leave California. We need your money.
We've had the highest gas prices on average.
I'm in
over
freaking
$2
Ohio. I'm in
the rest
Alabama.
of
Literal
the-
hell.
and the
True,
rest of
true,
the
true.
nation for a very long
God, I was not expecting him to have such a Weasley voice. That is so
We're
funny.
politicians.
Unexpected
What?
voice
To the
guy.
point where we are here
What?
today.
You didn't-
They do not deserve another chance. They have broken us with your question.
Oh my God, I was not
why do
expecting that
Democrats
voice out of
deserve
this
it?
man.
You just listened to probably 10, 15.
Oh, my God. He never heard Chad Bianco's voice. Oh, okay, wait. Stardust City Hag said, quick feel-good moment from Colbert. Okay, hold on. Copy current address. Thank you, Stardust City Hag. We need some... Oh, my God. It just... Okay, there we go.
For a new gig soon. And a lot of people tell me I should run for president.
Well, you certainly have the look.
Thank you very much.
You have the hair.
Well, for the record, I think it's a stupid idea.
Yes.
How
Well,
how dumb do you think it is for people to say that I should run for president?
Well, you know,
No.
the bar has changed.
That is true.
No.
That is true. At times subterranean.
So
I don't have to limbo so low.
Let me put it this way. I think that you could perform
No.
significantly better than some folks that we've seen.
All right.
Yeah. I have great confidence.
Oh
in
my
that.
God.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God.
Is that an endorsement?
No way.
It was not.
Ah.
I'm looking for a new gig soon. And
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
know.
people
Hold on,
tell
let me
me
watch it
I
again.
should run for president.
Well, you certainly have the look.
Thank you very much.
You have the hair.
Well, for the record, I think it's a stupid idea. How
Well,
how dumb do you think it is for people to say that I should run for president?
Well, you know, the bar has changed.
That is true. That is true. At times subterranean.
So
I don't have to limbo so low.
Let me put it
Oh
this
my
way.
God. Okay. Thank you. That was great. That was a good, yes. You know, honestly, Stephen Colbert would be a better president than Donald Trump. Oh my God. All right, let's continue this.
15 minutes of why they don't. We are going to get.
Oh my God, I was not expecting him to have such a Weasley voice. That is so
Career
funny.
politicians
Unexpected
brought
voice
us to the
guy.
point where we are here today. They do not deserve another chance. They have broken us with endless regulations.
Oh my God, he sounds like Reno 911. Oh my
No,
God.
stop. Reno
Oh my God, he sounds like
911.
Reno 911. Oh my
Reno
God.
911.
For all of them, I'm the only one on this stage that has spent a career making California lives better.
We're going to talk about the economy now. We'll get you in a moment, Mr. Steyer, but we're going to go to you, Mr. Mahan, with this question and the issue of affordability. As we know, right now, gas prices across the country are skyrocketing, due in part to the Iran.
Reno 911. Whatever.
Thank
shut
you.
up.
In California.
Holy
Mayor Mahan,
thank
it costs
you.
$6
He's new boot
right now,
goofing.
or more to fill up buy a gallon of gas in this state. Your opponent, Mr. Hilton, is promising to bring that price down to $3 a gallon in his first.
Being in bed with oil companies is a mistake. Javier Becerra has taken the
Yo!
max amount of money
There
from
you go.
Chevron, and he has said they're good guys that we need. The truth.
But I just don't care. You know, I'm like, no, it's good. I'm in favor of any kind of billionaire tax is good. 1 off, 10 off, doesn't fucking matter. Let's get a treat. People also complain about the way that this will the way that this tax will be utilized and stuff too, where they're like, it's a one-off tax and it can only be spent on healthcare in the state. Great, fuck it, why not? It's rich to say she supports good ideas, and she's the one saying everyone gets a $100K deduction from their income. Talk about bullshit ideas. I know that one was so fucking
Corporate real
annoying.
estate tax loophole, and it's spread throughout the
am
country.
not- candidates
I have not
actually
gotten-
balanced two budgets.
Congressman.
I'm confused. Do you support the billionaire's tax that is going to be on the ballot
He should
in
just
November?
take the L
yes
on this.
or no?
Katie, I just said I will vote for it if it's on the ballot in November.
So
what I've said
Wow.
is
Get his ass,
doesn't
get her
go
ass.
far
Good.
Damn.
enough that in fact it
Oh,
is
Damn.
he said it's not even good enough. We need to go further.
throughout the
Wow.
government.
Let me weigh
We
in.
have an
I'm
education
the only
system.
candidate
We're
that's
begging for
actually
money.
balanced two budgets.
We're going to bring Sheriff Bianco in first, and then we'll get you, Mr. Mayor. Sheriff.
No.
Thank you.
Don't get Reno 911 back in there. Who cares about this guy? Why are there too many candidates?
Is
Fuck.
how we started this program off to begin with. Everyone is leaving California, and it's because of their horrific policies. I agree with Katie that this is a horrific tax bill, but she is wrong on one thing. This is not a billionaire tax bill. You just have to read it and read what it is. I have spent my career suffering the consequences of their decisions and their policy that they love talking about. I am the one that deals with it. And this, the 140,000 people that are paying 50% of the taxes are going to leave. And then the wording of that bill.
Oh no, the super wealthy might leave Riverside. Oh no, they're not leaving. That's why they're in California. Shut the fuck up.
Such as Oracle, Chevron.
Okay, I can't. I'm muting this guy. I'm sorry. This guy doesn't exist in my mind. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. Listen, California's very own Andrew Cuomo. I'm sorry. I don't even see him. I will forget about him. Former mayor of Los Angeles. He does not
Antonio
exist, okay. Just imagine him as non-existent on this debate stage.
Cut. And I could tell
Hassan
you that
said
we
ignore
override the
Antonio
upper income tax.
Villaraigosa.
That's why you have feast and famine virtually every year. So the problem with the billionaire tax, it's a one-time tax. It's flawed. If I believe the people that make that kind of money
Did you change his position on this? I could have sworn he told you he wouldn't vote for the tax, but now he will. I'm glad he's taking the L on it. Because, like, he was trying to be fucking super literal about the tax. And I tried to communicate to him that, like, listen, big dog, no one cares, okay? You're a billionaire. Think about why people don't give a shit about this tax being a one-off. Okay.
Your response in terms
if you want a long-standing billionaire tax or a better, reliable long-term funding revenue strategy, that's great. But you should say yes to this.
When they earn a little more, they trip up into a different tax bracket and they have to pay more. That's all I'm suggesting we do for corporations. And by the way, not only would that say to the corporation that has a banner year and makes $1 billion, you pay not the same rate. Maybe you pay a tiny bit higher rate so that we can provide tax relief for families earning less than $100,000.
Oh God, I hate this. I can't believe that she's running on this, by the way. Oh my God. Oh my God. Tax relief for families earning less. Dude, it's a race to the fucking bottom. Americans, stop with this bullshit, okay? Any Democrat that runs around saying like we have to actually lower taxes for people making, we have to lower taxes for people making less than $100,000 is insane, okay? You're fucking insane. No, the goal here should be to adjust the progressive taxation structure so that it's more meaningful and you get to actually tax the wealthy, okay? Taxing wealth, for example, not just income. This is what we are supposed to do in this fucking country, not cut the taxes for 99% of the fucking population. No, don't say you can do both. Don't be stupid, okay? It's a trick. It's a mistake. Taxes only go one way in this goddamn country. It's supposed to go in the opposite direction. More taxes, not less, okay? More taxes for the wealthy. The working class already pay a tremendous amount of their yearly income in the form of taxes already. The overwhelming majority of Americans already get taxed on income, okay? The real problem, the real thing that we have to tackle is taxing the wealth, okay? The idea that we are supposed to cut taxes is unbelievably stupid. It's a major fucking revenue driver. Oh, under 100K is working class in California? Yes, it is. No, but you're not supposed to go in the tax cut direction because that is, it's an incredibly stupid decision, okay? It's an incredibly stupid decision. Cutting taxes for the working class is going to only go in one direction. You're just cutting taxes. You're never going to increase, you're never going to be able to increase taxes for the wealthy. You're just going to cut taxes, a race to the bottom. Our service is already struggling. What the fuck are you talking about?
Biggest corporations. The truth of the matter is what I stand for is shared prosperity, real growth, supporting businesses, but sharing it work so that the people in California get what they need.
Thank you.
And going after corporate special interests is the way we're going to drive down costs.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Secretary Becerra, Mayor Mahan suggested that you're interested in growing the size of government. He says he wants to cut it. Your response
I didn't
to
say
that?
I want to cut it. I said I want to use the revenue we have today to make government better. We need to demand Sacramento do better before we ask working people to pay more. All of Tom Steyer's proposals will just increase cost.
Secretary Becerra.
Mayor Mahan should take a look at my record.
You've been paid off. This is shameful of you.
Nation, which is immigration, as all of you know. Mr. Hilton, right now,
Steyer is lying. Steyer lies about shit all the time. Steyer still has a financial stake in oil stocks. You know this. You are ignoring, the research? 40K maxed out. Come on, man. You're parroting talking points like you've been paid off. I have sources and research. Sit down. Oh, you're a Becerra fan. Look, man. Anyone that says they're in favor of Medicare for all or single payer that then gets the opportunity to implement it and chooses not to is always going to be a fucking enemy in my book.
Damn.
Okay? That's it. And yes, it's not like Tom Steyer is someone I'm super excited about either.
Exactly.
I've told you already. I've told you from the start that I'm not in favor of you're paid off with 3 white hats. How dare you? Yeah, it's because Tom Steyer sent me the class trader hat. That's why. Clyburn endorsed Becerra. Yes, the entire corporate Democrat political machine, the entire corporate. Oh God, Javier Becerra wants single payer. Sure, okay, dude, get the fuck out of here.
Damn.
Listen, Javier Becerra is a product of machine politics in this state, and machine politics in California has been devastating for California politics. I live in it, and I'm sure you live in it too. But you clearly don't have as much as a distaste as I do for machine politics. This is not talking points. This is lived reality. This is what the fuck? What are you talking about? I'm third gen California. Okay, who gives a fuck? So you've experienced it, as have I.
I'm
What
a
are you
legacy
talking about? I didn't even know
Californian.
that Javier Becerra had Javier Becerra heads in this fucking community. You're talking to Mr. LA
Bro.
man. Yeah, he said 3 generations. Okay, well, I've only been here for 13 years, you know? I'm not 3 generations in. Tom Steyer is a billionaire. Javier Becerra is a slave to the billionaire interests. That's it. And same with Katie Porter. Both Katie Porter and Becerra, but especially Becerra, is the one that they immediately consolidate support behind once Eric Swalwell was no longer viable because it came out that he's like fucking sexually assaulting all of his staffers.
Yep.
Mr. Bianco, you've been very well behaved tonight, especially compared to CBS, and I actually
Wow.
appreciate it that you've been waiting your turn and following the rules. And I would appreciate it if everybody could do that, because I think Californians are actually owed some answers to questions.
We were told we can interject.
Congresswoman Porter, on the question itself on these farm workers, which are a big part of California's economy, what's your answer to that? As Ms.
Chevron, they're
Hilton
not
saying
the
it's
bad
the
guy.
decision of the federal government.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's the job of the governor. to
Damn, I
protect
need to get
every
on
single
Twitter.
Californian. Period. There are no
Get on
qualifications
there
on that.
Are you doing
Do
that?
more
Are you
politics
doing
on
that
there.
by having a sanctuary state policy? Absolutely not. And I was on.
The state has turned
Who
over
is this guy?
12,000 violent criminals to the
Sorry.
federal government.
All right, I
Sanctuary
think we're
law
almost
does
done with the
not
Hassan.
protect
Both of these people
violent
should not
criminals
be
in
on
the
the
way that
stage.
you-
We
Explain
should
it.
hold them accountable. We should inspect the detention centers that they have in secret.
So just to
We should-
clarify there.
Okay, I literally think he's just Andrew Cuomo on Ozempic. I think he's Andrew Cuomo on Ozempic. Call him out for being British.
Everybody that wants to, like, again, lie and emotionally get all spun up about the Oath Keeper organization, I just would, before you.
Dude, one of the top candidates who is a Republican in the California jungle primary
Is an oath
he's
keeper.
literally a fucking oath keeper from a different state, okay? And he is defending being an oath keeper on the goddamn debate stage. What the fuck are we doing?
Extremely proud of swearing an oath to defend my constitution against politicians like
You
this.
misunderstood my wife's comment and gave her a day off, and now she's trying to pay an Etsy wish to make you shit your pants. Please don't.
Do you also support
Don't do that.
prosecuting the leadership of ICE?
Okay.
I think we should police Donald anyone being able to
Your
act
civic
under
duty
the
is
Constitution.
bringing
Oh
the
my
gun and
God.
fighting with
Oh
cops.
my God.
Your
He's
civic duty
so
is to try
aggro
and
about
run over
defending
cops.
ICE.
Come on.
Well,
You've already been
A
called
lot
out.
of
Your
oath
other
keepers
defenders.
brought guns to the Capitol, Mr.
Let's
Bianco.
just be honest.
Sheriff Bianco, as the member of law enforcement here, last week the Department of Justice sued the state of New Jersey because the governor there signed into law a mask ban for ICE agents. A similar law in California was blocked last month. Do you believe that ICE agents who are
Southern California billionaire Stuart and Linda Resnick, the owners of Agri-Giant, the wonderful company, Pistachios, Pomegranates, is giving Javier Becerra.
Oh my god, no way. No way. The pistachio company giving, oh my god. Hold on, let me go back and check that out.
was blocked last month. Do you believe that ICE agents who are
Southern California billionaire Stuart and Linda
Resnick, the owners of Agri-Giant, the wonderful, oh yeah, the pomegranate company. Damn, they gave Javier Becerra money. Oof. Oof.
Resnick, the owners of Agri-Giant, the wonderful company, Pistachios, Pomegranates, is giving Javier Becerra.
Dictate what they do. Would I?
Nice.
Do I allow my deputies to do that in certain circumstances?
Nice.
The answer would be, I guess, yes, because depending on the
Well,
circumstances that
like
the federal
40,
government has
hold on, let me see how much money that was.
Javier
to
Becerra.
dictate what they do. Would I? Do,
Nice.
Let's see. Ooh, like $40,000.
do I allow my deputies to do that in certain circumstances?
Nice.
The
And
answer
another
would be, I guess, yes,
$40,000.
because depending on the
Jeez.
circumstances that the federal government has jurisdiction over.
Okay,
that.
I'm fucking bored. This sucks. I'm already out.
Damn.
I saw at least a little bit of it. I'm done for the night, everybody. Almost.
Okay. All right. That was Hassan on that. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was disappointed with the whole field. I wanted to share let's see. Oh, it's not even 4:30 yet, so we got time. I wanted to share this video that Dr. Heather Cox Richardson did.
Explode the deficit. And so you know what they did?
I
actually have something very specific on my mind today.
Yeah,
Anyway,
let's watch this real quick.
so I
I'm gonna
hope you
go
will
use the
bear with me
restroom.
that I didn't
I'll be
ask
back.
for questions. I think I sort of know what the questions are out there, although as I say, I've been on the road all day. So I may do a deeper dive in the tonight's letter. But the thing that is just sticking in my craw, if you will, today is that the Senate Republicans introduced what they want for the budget reconciliation measure. Now, remember that because of the Senate filibuster, There are, and remember, the filibuster essentially simply says that you can't make senators stop talking. So they could theoretically talk forever and nothing would ever get voted on. So there's a system for getting rid of people talking, but it takes 60 votes. It's called cloture, takes 60 votes. And what that essentially means is that the Senate has to, even though it's supposed to be a majority institution, it really needs 60 votes to get anything through. And I'm not going to argue about that today. Just have that in the back of your minds, because the Senate realized quickly that it had to exempt certain things from that system or nothing would ever get done in the Senate. And so one of the things that they exempted were financial measures so that the government can be financed. And what that means is you cannot filibuster something like a budget reconciliation bill. So, what the Republicans have done since last year is they have used budget reconciliation. And by the way, the Democrats do the same thing when they're in power, but the Republicans have taken this to a fine art. Because what they've done is they've thrown everything they possibly can into a budget reconciliation measure because they can pass it without any Democratic votes at all. The only requirement is that whatever they are passing has to have something to do with financing. And theoretically, there is the Senate parliamentarian who makes the decisions about whether or not what they're putting in that bill are okay. That's not binding, but people do tend to defer to the Senate parliamentarian. Anyway, that's what measure they advanced yesterday evening. They put forward what they would like to see in the budget reconciliation measure that they're working on right now. And what's sticking in my craw, as I say, is that one of the things in that budget reconciliation measure, and I hope you're sitting down because this one is just so over the top, is $1 billion of taxpayer money for security features in the White House, including Trump's proposed ballroom.
Crazy.
Remember
freaking ballroom.
that Trump tore down the East Wing of the White House on October 20th of last year, 2 days after the No Kings rally of October 18th. It was pretty clearly just a toddler peek that he was going to go ahead and knock down some, he had received a narcissistic injury by the fact so many people turned out on October 18th to say they didn't want him in office. So he turned around 2 days later and hurt us, did something that he knew would really upset people. He knocked down the East Wing of the White House. But then he sort of turned around and said, wait, you don't have to worry because we're going to build this entirely with private money, which itself is a huge problem because what you essentially saw was a number of very wealthy individuals or corporations using that vehicle as a way to put money in Trump's pocket, essentially. But that was what he kept maintaining, is that people who didn't want the ballroom were being ridiculous because it was going to be built for free and back and forth. And, we didn't have to worry about it. It was all going to be private money and so on. Now, Senate Republicans are saying that they want to appropriate $1 billion of taxpayer money.
That's crazy
for that
amount.
expletive ballroom. That to me is, in a way, a bait and switch that looks a lot like the Republican Party's ideology since the 1980s. And I wanted to go a little bit into that because one of the things about being where we are in American politics is that so much is happening so fast. It feels a lot like everything's shallow. And by that, I don't mean that it doesn't matter. I mean that it's hard to tell why people are doing certain things. And there are certainly things that are happening in politics that don't, on the surface, seem to make any sense.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think, to understand the ideologies that under which people are operating. So what happens is, coming out of World War II and the Depression before it, Americans of both parties, Democrats and Republicans, take a look at the economic system of the 1920s and a little bit before that, and they say, that really didn't go very well. We had a global depression and we had a world war, so maybe we should think of something else. And this is where Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the Democrats come in with what they called the New Deal. And that actually came from a speech from FDR, who said, I pledge to the American people a new deal. That is the old deal in which the government was arranged to benefit business and a few wealthy men, as it was in the 1920s, was no longer going to work. He was going to offer a new deal. And what that New Deal did was it regulated business so that workers would get decent salaries and not have to work hideous hours, and the business people couldn't pollute, and had to actually work in ways that were good for the American public. So it regulated business. It provided a basic social safety net so that that actually comes from a sort of a story. It isn't even apocryphal. It's a real story about a guy looking out his window and seeing grandmothers eating out of trash cans and saying, come on, we got to do better than that. But we got a basic social safety net that protected women and children, widows and children, and disabled workers, and protected laborers. We got infrastructure like the Tennessee Valley Authority, which provided electricity for a part of the country that had not had it before. We got electricity. We got some attempts to move toward healthcare. We got these infrastructure systems that are going to really take off after World War II under Dwight Eisenhower primarily, although the Democrats, of course, especially Lyndon Baines Johnson, really go to town with that in the 1960s. But it's really FDR who puts his stamp of approval on it as a Republican with the interstate highway. If you've seen those signs on the interstate highway that are like stars around them, it says the Eisenhower Highway, that's because he was instrumental in getting the Interstate Highway Act put into place. At the time, it was the largest public works program in the country. So you had regulation of business, you had a basic social safety net, you had infrastructure, you had the protection of civil rights. And FDR sort of noodles around with that, but it takes off under Truman, and then really takes off under Eisenhower, and then going forward to LBJ in the 1960s. And you also had, which I won't talk about at all today, this attempt to create a rules-based international order that would enable countries to cooperate with each other in monetary stuff and in trade and in educational and cultural fields, but that it would also give them systems like the United Nations and NATO to work out their differences, and then NATO to backstop security. So
And
you
then
had this
that
system
all
coming
fell
out of World
apart.
War II, in which the government took an active role in trying to hold the playing field level for everybody. And we get in those years something called the Great Compression, what economists call the Great Compression.
Great
And what that means
Compression,
is that the
amazing.
income and the wealth of the people at the very top and the people at the very bottom compress. That's why they call it the Great Compression. People start, that doesn't mean that everybody's equal, but it does mean that you no longer have the extremes that you got in the Gilded Age and going into the 1920s. Well, when Reagan rises, and then when he's elected into office in the 1980s, he argues for an entirely different kind of political economy. He wants to change that whole system, because what he says is the government, first of all, regulating business means that businessmen can't run their lives the way they want to, and can't run their businesses the way they want to. So they don't have liberty, they don't have freedom. So he wants to get rid of that, and he wants to get rid of the taxes that are necessary to support that social welfare state. Or it isn't really a social welfare state, the social welfare programs, because of course those require high taxes. And under Eisenhower in the 1950s, Eisenhower's Republican in the 1950s, so many people now look back to the 1950s as the halcyon days of our past. Remember, the top income tax bracket in the 1950s was 92%.
92%.
So that it's actually JFK who starts to bring those things down in the early 1960s. But what you get is Ronald Reagan picking up sort of a radical idea that this use of taxpayer money in this fashion is a form of socialism, that it's stealing our liberty. And what he argues, but there's a real problem because people really like that system. They like having wage protection. They like having clean air and clean water. It's actually Nixon who's really behind that, who's a Republican. They like this system. They like Social Security. They like education, making it easy to go to college and making sure that we have Head Start and things like that. They like civil rights. That's actually popular. And they like the idea of not having another world war. So one of the things that Reagan argues is that if you start to cut taxes and regulations, what that will do is it will just sort of jumpstart the economy extraordinarily well. And that will mean that even though people are paying less in taxes, that you'll be able to keep those public programs, because the economy will go so hot that the taxes that still exist will generate far more income than they had before. And that what you really need to do to make an economy boom is to focus on the supply side of the economy. That is, the people who are owning factories and who have a lot of capital to invest in the economy.
This is what China does too. Okay, this is very, very important. I want to point out that China does supply side economics, right? Like Dr. Heather Cox Rich HR, whatever the hell, whatever she goes by. We just call her Heather. Okay, Dr. Heather is literally saying right here that in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan wanted to make it easier for businesses, for people who own capital, aka the people who own the factories. They wanted to make supply side economics better, and they really thought the rest would follow. But it did not. That's why I was like, "Oh my god, China does supply side economics, but they have accountability for the people that they're supposed to be helping." It's crazy. I don't understand why Republicans let this happen, especially after what she says right here.
Versus the demand side, the workers, the people who, ordinary people who, the government after the Depression would focus on, because they believed that if you put money in the hands of those people, they'd spend it and it would keep the economy growing. So you get this idea in the 1980s that becomes firmly embraced by the Republican Party, that the way to make the economy better for everybody is to cut regulations and to cut taxes. That's supply side economics. It also later on becomes known as neoliberalism, which I'm not going to go into right now. But so their idea is that this is how you're doing stuff.
Yeah, we can't get into neoliberalism right now, but this is the foundations of it, right? That's crazy.
Go. But from the very beginning, it didn't work. Under Reagan, when they
From
said,
the
"Hey,
very
we're going to cut all
beginning.
this stuff, and here's how the economy is going to boom," the government computers said, "Actually, you're going to just explode the deficit." And so you know what they did? They reprogrammed the computers, rather than simply saying, "Oh, we have a problem." Remember, those of you who are of an age like me, you remember George H.W. Bush calling Reagan's ideas voodoo economics, because most people said this is not going to work.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, what has happened since 1981, since the system went into effect, is more than $50 trillion has moved from the bottom 90% of us to that top 1%. The system actually doesn't work for ordinary Americans, but they kept selling it by saying, "Oh, this is going to be really good for you. This is going to be really good for you. We're going to cut these taxes. We're going to cut these regulations, and everybody's going to do well. A rising tide lifts all boats." Remember?
Wow.
When I look at the fact that Trump promised this ballroom was going to be funded privately, and this is going to be this great thing for the American people, and now they're turning around and saying, "Oh, by the way, we need $1 billion from you to make this happen."
Yeah.
To me, it just looks like supply side economics. This idea that we're going to have this great thing, we're going to cut regulations, we're going to cut taxes, and you're all going to do incredibly well. But in fact, what happened was $50 trillion, more than $50 trillion, moved from that bottom 90% to the top 1%. So what do I actually mean by that? And what does that look like nowadays? So last July, July 4th, it was, the Republicans passed what they called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It also was a budget reconciliation bill. So they passed it without a single Democratic vote. And even still, they lost a couple of Republicans. So J.D. Vance, who was the vice president, had to come break the tie in the Senate to pass this. I mean, it was not a popular measure. But that measure was a wish list for the Republicans. They threw everything in it that they could. And crucial to that were those tax cuts that Trump claimed that he was going to give to corporations and to the very wealthy during the campaign. And that's exactly what he did. Huge tax cuts in that One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or the Budget Reconciliation Bill, or Budget Reconciliation Act now. And what are we seeing now? They actually put that in place in such a way that the real hits from that bill wouldn't come till later, with the idea that people wouldn't really notice what was going on until after the midterms, when they could either blame it on the Democrats or it would be too late for the American people to do anything. Well, those things are starting to show. So first of all, we've seen rural hospitals closing at really quite a clip, because one of the things that the One Big Beautiful Bill Act did was it cut back on support for patients. So the ones, the ones who keep the rural hospitals going. But just in the last 2 days, we've seen two things that to me were really egregious. So people like me, you can look back over my old files, people like me pointed to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and said, "You're going to throw Americans off health care and off of supplemental nutrition assistance." And the Republicans said, no, 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 you're lying. This is propaganda. This is going to be so great for everybody. We will move fraud away from the system, but no, 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 this is all going to be great for everyone. Well, we learned earlier this week, I'm sorry, at the end of last week, that so far, about 20% of the people who had been covered by the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, have in fact dropped their health care because they no longer have the health care supplements that the Republicans cut from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And that number is expected to go up another 5%. So about 26% of Americans who had been covered by the Affordable Care Act will not be. They will not have health insurance. So far, that's about 5 million Americans have lost their health insurance.
Wow.
Then today,
Scary.
and this week, I guess it's been, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins has been out in front of the cameras talking about how under her auspices at the Department of Agriculture, 4.3, not 43, 4.3 million Americans have, in her words, been lifted off supplemental nutrition assistance programs. That is what we used to call food stamps. Now it's known as SNAP. And she says that they have been lifted off because they either were committing fraud over over supplemental nutrition, or because the economy is so good they don't need it any longer. The reality is that, in fact, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act cut about $186 billion in federal spending, it's about 20%, from SNAP over 10 years. That's according to the Congressional Budget Office. And they made it so difficult to apply that people are simply not being able to fill out the paperwork. They're not being able to manage to get into the system to get the supplemental nutrition they need, the food they need, in a country where we have people, a lot of people living with food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another place you're seeing this idea that, the cutting taxes and cutting regulations is going to do just great stuff for the economy. And look, we've lifted these people off food stamps. No, we've actually taken their food away from them, is what we've done. And it's important to remember that this is an ideological position of the Republicans. This is their ideology under which they are operating. And now there's, in the Republican Party, there's a split. There now are a number of Republicans, the younger, even more radical Republicans, who actually want to use a very strong government to impose their will on people, not to get rid of the government, which is what the Reaganites and on wanted, but rather to have a very strong government that they can impose their will on other people. And you see that aspect of the Republicans in this budget reconciliation measure coming from the Senate. Because if they are not going to be funding the American people's health care or food, for example, what are they interested in funding? Well, first of all, they're interested in taking, I'm sorry, this is just sticking in my craw, $1 billion of our tax money for security for that ballroom.
Stupid.
But what else are they funding? They have proposed to fund Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and Customs and Border Protection. Remember, that's the parent agency for Border Patrol. Border Patrol was the agency that was overseen by Greg Bovino, that was so incredibly violent in Minneapolis and other places as well. And ICE, of course, you know about ICE. So, if you remember, the Democrats in the Senate refused to fund the Department of Homeland Security until those two agencies were taken out of the funding, because they want to see reforms. And those reforms, by the way, are not something new and dramatic. They literally want those agencies to behave the way they did before Trump got into office.
Yeah.
By doing things like not wearing masks, as law enforcement officers are not supposed to, but also by doing things like having to have a judicial warrant before they knock down someone's door. And that, by the way, is absolutely the way that the Fourth Amendment has been interpreted all along. So what the Trump administration is doing is crazy new and radical. And that's the Democrats are simply saying, we want to go back to the system under which we operated before Trump took office. But so they finally did a few days ago fund Homeland Security, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency and Transportation Security Administration. And, there's a lot that Homeland Security does that we want to keep funded. Our Coasties, the Coast Guard, are in Homeland Security now. And some people were getting paid and some people weren't getting paid at first. And, that is now funded. But the Republicans want to fund ICE and Border Patrol through budget reconciliation because they won't then have to make any reforms in it, and they won't have to operate with the support of the Democrats. Now, remember that ICE and Border Patrol are really unpopular. I mean, among other things, and I'm just not even going to make a list of them all, but among other things, they shot and killed 2 American citizens who were peacefully exercising their right to protest.
Hey, according to
So-
Chad Bianco, they were not peaceful because one of them brought a gun to a protest. So, but that's just Bianca's interpretation.
So the Senate budget reconciliation measure proposes, and I hope you're sitting down, 72 billion dollars.
Oh my God.
To fund ICE and Border Patrol, which already got a huge package last year in the budget reconciliation.
Yeah.
ICE and Border Patrol through 2029.
Yeah. Why would they need it past 2028? Why would they need it past 2027? That's really weird. It's really weird. It's almost like the Trump administration and Republicans in general are trying to have some sort of paramilitary group. Weird.
Doing there, they are removing from the American people the ability to pressure the government to force reforms to ICE and Border Protection. I'm sorry, Border Patrol. Well, it's Customs and Border Protection, but Border Patrol. They are saying we are going to take this away from the American people, who at this point thoroughly disapprove of this administration, thoroughly disapprove of the president, and thoroughly disapprove of the Republicans. We're going to take that out of their hands with our votes alone, and we're going to pour money, yours and my tax dollars, into ICE and Border Patrol for 3 more years. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it.
Absolutely not.
And then there is another layer to this, and that is the administration went to war in Iran without consulting Congress, as you know.
Yep.
And they did so arguing that under the 1973 War Powers Act, they had 60 days after notifying Congress to exercise this operation.
All right.
And remember the War Powers Act, 1973, it's after Richard Nixon has bombed Cambodia secretly, and Congress is trying to stop the president from doing things like that. So they passed the War Powers Act. And what it says is that if there is an imminent threat, which is why Trump and his people were saying that Iran was an imminent threat, even though his own intelligence said they weren't going to have a nuclear weapon for at least a decade. If there's an imminent threat, the president can operate without consulting Congress, but he has to let Congress know what he's done within 2 days. And then within 60 days, he either has to have congressional approval or he has to remove the troops. He's got 30 days to remove the troops,
And
but
I
they have to
believe we're already
stop fighting
past
and they
this
got to
point,
pull out.
honestly.
That deadline was May 1st.
Okay.
And the administration said, they wrote a letter to Congress, and I wrote about this, to both the Senate Pro Tem, the technical head of the Senate, it's a long story, and the Speaker of the House, saying, they put in writing that in fact the Iran war had terminated. That was their word, terminated, on April 7th, which is
What?
news to the
Americans.
service members who were still sitting over there, and to the American people, and to anybody interested in the flow of
my
oil through
God.
the Strait of Hormuz, and anybody who is interested in the fact the U.S. did in fact fire on an Iranian ship on April 19th, which last I checked was significantly after April 7th. But
Damn.
they're arguing that once a ceasefire was declared, the clock started again. So Trump didn't
Oh
actually
my
have to remove the
God.
troops
No.
with the 60-day
No.
deadline.
They don't
Well,
get
first of all,
to
that's
play these games. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. No.
not at all what the law says. And this is really an extraordinary power grab. And I'm going to unpack that a little bit in just a second, but let me finish with what's going on in Iran right now. So, of course, now we've got this real issue that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, that the Iranians have taken control of it, and they're not letting oil through except a little bit of it. And that controls about 20% of the world's oil, which is a huge problem. I mean, you're already seeing the issues at the gas pump, but we're going to see a really, really big price strike in the next several weeks because oil is so expensive. And if you're looking at the price of diesel, which of course around here we are, if you're in a profession that uses diesel, the prices for diesel are eye-popping. And of course, it's trucks that run on diesel that carry our food to markets, for example, and carry products around the country. So, so right now that Strait of Hormuz is closed. And what's happened is the Trump administration has declared, this is a little complicated, but the Trump administration declared a blockade. And if you read the newspaper, they're a little bit fuzzy on what's being blockaded. And people are saying it's a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, but it's not. It's a blockade on the ports, the Iranian ports of Iran, so that ships can't come and go from them. Because what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to strangle Iran's economy. And so they're not letting ships in or out of Iranian ports. At the same time that Iran looked at that and said, okay, we're not going to open up the strait as long as you have done that. As long as you've got a blockade on, we're not going to open up the strait. And just again, a blockade is an act of war. I may have a rabbit hole there for you, but a blockade is an act of war. Yeah. So while Trump is sitting there saying the war's over, he is literally engaged in.
We knew about blockades in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn go in the first scene. They're like, "Please, you got to stop the blockade," and then they just blow up the whole blockade.
An act of war.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not a Star Wars person, but if my memory serves me correct, that's what happened in that Episode 1.
But so what's happened is that Trump is now trying to force that strait open. He's begging South Korea to come help. He's telling China they need to come help. But the Iranians have control over the strait, and they have control of the strait because all they really have to do is convince insurers that they don't want to insure the ships coming and going through the strait because they might get hit with a drone. And then no insurer is going to touch it. So that's actually the mechanism by which they're closing the strait. They're not actually sitting there with guns. They're saying, don't try it because you have this giant metal thing full of extraordinarily explosive material. And we have a very hot drone over here that we could just drop on it. So over the weekend, beginning yesterday morning, it was announced on Sunday, and it began yesterday morning. The Trump administration announced Project Freedom.
What?
And what they say they are doing is they are going to escort commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz, and they're billing this as being humanitarian because there's a lot of seamen who are trapped because of the closure of the strait, and it is a humanitarian crisis. These people were supposed to be in and out. Their food's running low. Their sanitation on the ships is bad. I mean, it's a real problem. And I talk a lot about maritime issues, and I feel like our maritime around the world, but certainly our U.S. maritime, I feel, is so often overlooked. Obviously I have friends in the maritime industries, and it's a crisis for them. That's absolutely true. But he's doing it, insisting that this is a humanitarian effort, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to open up that strait. And Iran has said, "Ain't happening, dude. You're not just gonna do this. We have said that strait is closed. We've said we'd cooperate, but not while you're engaged in an act of war against us." So yesterday, they sent drones and missiles toward 2 U.S. destroyers, I think, and 2 commercial ships. Didn't hit either one of them. They were intercepted, but they did apparently hit an important oil region in the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE, sort of as a demonstration that, we could really wreak havoc here if you're not going to play with us, because, Trump has really 2 options at this point. He can continue bombing, which he keeps alternately threatening to do, or he can basically announce he's won and walk away, with Iran having control of the Strait of Hormuz. So essentially, Iran appeared to be demonstrating, if you think you want this war to start up again, a reminder that we could hit the oil fields. And so please don't go that direction.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, mind you, there are negotiations apparently going on, but who knows what's going on with this administration. We're all reading other countries' newspapers to figure things out. Anyway, so today, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who appeared to be running, trying out whether or not he's going to run for president in 2028, told reporters that the firing back and forth now here happening, even though there's a ceasefire, which apparently doesn't actually mean a ceasefire, that is not a sign that the ceasefire is over. Because if it were, then they got to deal with the fact they're 4 days overdue from getting congressional approval for this war. which is just been a global disaster. So what Rubio said is that the war is over. The first part of the war is over.
Oh my God.
Operation Epic Fury
Oh my
is
God.
over. And now we're in a new phase. And that new phase is the Project Freedom phase. So we don't really have to worry any longer
Stupid.
about that first 60-day thing because we have something new
No.
going on over
No.
here now.
Oh my God.
Which is, to me, such a profound
Like twisting
rejection of the key principles of American democracy. You can hear how angry I am, because one of the things that the founders, but also the framers of the Constitution, were absolutely all over was the right of the American people to have a say in whether or not we went to war.
Yes.
And that in many ways was the symbol of it all. Because if a leader could take you to war, as kings did across Europe,
Yep,
in the memories
all
of
the freaking time.
framers themselves, without your consultation, that meant that the king had the right to impose extraordinary taxes on you for his own ends without you having any say in it, which is, of course, what the revolution was fought over. But also that the king could spend your lives however he wanted without you having any say in it, rather like Vladimir Putin is doing to Russians right now, who are essentially being fed into a meat grinder.
Whoa.
So to have this administration pretending that we are not at war and pretending that they do not need to consult the Congress of the United States for that war
Yeah.
seems to me to go all the way back to that $1 billion they want to put into the ballroom. That is, this whole idea started by the Republicans in the modern era. It actually comes from an earlier period, that you would make America great by cutting taxes and cutting regulations because that was going to be great for everybody. But somehow taxes were the real villain here. And then if you just cut taxes, you'd have a better economy and more freedom. What that did was it led to a country where people don't have health care, people don't have food security. We have our roads are crumbling. We have all these ways in which our actual country is falling apart. And the extraordinarily wealthy people are no longer paying taxes. They're the ones who got the tax cuts. And what they are getting is government contracts from this administration. They're getting lax regulations for the fields that in the industries that they care about, that they're making billions from. We have a president who has just poured money into his own pockets. And now we have this bait and switch on the ballroom, which is such.
It's like the stupid border wall. Remember when Trump was like, yeah, we're going to do the border wall and Mexico's going to pay for it, right? And then they never did. And I guess we never built the border wall, or I don't know if we're paying for it or what's going on. But yeah, it is a bait and switch. It's a bait and switch. And it's just, I can't believe like these die hard, like freedom, America first, my rights over anyone else, small government, are down for this war, or down for supporting this president that wants to have this war, supporting this party that is supporting this war, which is crazy. It's crazy how lost and like unaware so many Americans are about what it means to be an American, honestly.
A slap in the face to the American people. Oh, we're doing this to modernize the ballroom, or modernize the East Wing. Trump needed to take it down without any permissions, without consulting Congress. And now he's going to build this beautiful ballroom and it's going to be privately funded. And now here we are, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 7 months later.
Jesus.
And they want $1 billion from us to put security in that stupid ballroom.
No.
And so for me, the story of today is bait and switch, but also the extraordinary, the hollowness of that ideology that says if we cut more taxes and we cut more regulations, everybody's going to do better. And
it's a
at
lie.
the same time, they're turning right around and saying, oh, but while we're at it, can you guys just pour money into our pockets?
No.
And that to me, with the corruption and everything else in this administration, to me, I was in the car for a very long time, could not get off that budget reconciliation bill that the Republicans can, in fact, hammer through without a single Democratic vote. And we will have to live with that for at least 3 years, with the funding for ICE and Border Patrol, and all that that means for our loss of liberty, for their use of surveillance technologies, for all the ways in which they are consolidating power among a very small group of people. But we're also going to have to look at that damn ballroom. So that's really all I've got
The
today.
damn ballroom.
And because like I said, I didn't really
You
have a
know,
chance
like
to.
this would be my plea to Donald Trump, right? You know, like times are tough, right? Remember when he was all like, everything's going to be more expensive. Maybe little girls, instead of having $5, they can only get $1. Very, very smart way for Trump to make an analogy, right? But it's like, uh, it's like this whole idea that, you know, we have to cut back. It's kind of like the paper straw thing, right? We all got to do our part. We all have to do our part to end climate change, and apparently freaking plastic straws is part of the problem, right? All right, I'm willing to make a sacrifice to do stupid paper straws if plastic straws are really this horrible, horrible, horrible thing on the environment, right? I'm down for it. I don't care. The paper straw, I drink my drinks really fast, I don't care. The paper straw does not melt in my mouth, right? I want my plea to Donald Trump and every other, cuz honestly, I'm surprised Heather Cox Richardson has not said the word oligarch yet at all in this video. She's made comparisons to kings and royalty and all of that, but the reality is we have an oligarchic form of government, okay? Yes, Donald Trump is making all these calls and doing all these things, but there are so many people in his pockets, so many people funding his whatever, so many people that he was just going to be okay with anyways, not getting, just the tax cuts was the first thing only thing he did in his first term, right? The second term has been off the rails, and I feel like half of the people who were alive during the first term don't even remember it because, that was before COVID, BC. And it's like we don't remember. But the tax cuts for the wealthiest was what Donald Trump's biggest accomplishment was in his first term. And that is what solidified like the oligarchy, right? That is what made it because, Sure, we talk about in the 90s, neoliberalism was the sign that both the Republicans and the Democrats were no longer there to support the working class. They were no longer there to represent the working class, right? But with this new crazy hyper capitalism that has happened in the past since COVID, essentially. I mean, it was bad back then, but ever since COVID, that's what really really, really, really made the difference between the wealth gap bigger, right? And it's just like, bro, Jeff Bezos, do you have to have this many billions of dollars? Do you really have to? Is that fulfilling your life in one way or another? Like, brother, come on. You were at the Met Gala. Your wife was at the Met Gala. Y'all are, living this fantastic rich lifestyle. How much more do you need? I'm here talking about taking, I'm like, okay, I have literally 2 quarters. Let me put away 1 quarter, give away the other quarter, and I'll only keep half of it for myself. When in reality, billionaires are like, I got $20 billion. Here's 1 quarter. And I'm myself and giving you 1 quarter, even though I only have two. So it's just like I want to have sympathy for the ruling class essentially, because sure, I'm sure it's not that easy as I think it is, right? I'm sure they have problems too, right? But if they are going to ask me to make concessions, which is already more than I should be, let's be honest. If they're going to ask me to make concessions, they better make some damn concessions themselves too. But they are not. And in fact, they have been asking us to make concessions while turning around and profiting from it, literally profiting from it. I don't know how much more Americans have to see this level of inequality, but I don't know what it's gonna take for Americans to realize that having the Bezos and the Elon Musk and all those 1 percenters or 0.01 percenters, whatever, having those like having like Heather Cox Richardson said, the non-consolidated class, now the upper class is very big, but it's not, all the other classes are, it's just as extreme too. The poor, there's the rich and there's the poor. Back then there was the poor, the middle class, and the rich, right? The taxes on the rich were what was helping keep people in the middle class. And it's just, Americans are dumb. I don't know. We're not going to get it. We're not going to figure out that these people are literally screwing us over and like left, right, and sideways every day, all day, every night, I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's finish this out and then we'll move to the next thing. We'll try watching the LA mayoral debate, but we'll see it. I don't know.
Play around a lot in the news, but I will be back tomorrow. I'm sorry, Thursday. And I would urge you, for all that, my outrage is over this ideology and what it has done to us as a people. But never forget that we also have the other ideology, and that's the one that I embrace, the one
What is it?
that we saw coming out of World War II. The idea that if we regulate business, we have progressive taxation so people, including billionaires, pay their share. We have a social safety net for those people who need it. And here's a newsflash: we are all going to need it in our lifetimes. We invest in infrastructure so that we have decent roads and schools and hospitals, weather stations, the things we
Amen.
need to have, wealthy in the non-monetary, but in the humane sense, lives and civil rights, so that we are all treated equally before the law, and that we have an international system that guarantees, or at least takes a huge step toward guaranteeing, security for everybody, so we don't have another world war. That theory has been proven to work. And that theory is the one that I think you're seeing gaining momentum in the country.
So then tell me why, because I don't want this to happen again, right? It seems like it's a freaking cycle. We help everyone out and then we forget, how good that is for everyone. And then we're like, nah, we got to take it away. End affirmative action, end these social safety nets. We don't need them. They're just enabling people. And then we go and do it again and cycle, wash, rinse, repeat, right? When are we going to learn that we need to have these things, that we need to have government, that we need to have taxes to fund these stupid things? Because if we don't do it at that level, then we're going to have to deal with it way later on.
Again, because many of us thought we didn't need to protect it any longer because it was so obviously better than this other system. But remember that is out there as well, and people are embracing it. And again, now is absolutely the time to use your voices and to make people understand that if they
Hey, welcome in, Jared. Yes, it is a good evening. Yeah, throw some hearts in there. Hell yeah. I don't know if we're gonna try to watch the LA mayoral debate, but we might try. We'll see. But welcome in.
Expect us to vote for them, they better do what we want. And right now, the Republican Party is actively working against the vast majority of Americans, and they are keeping in office a president who is clearly unfit for the job.
Okay, hold on. Pulling up NBC. Hold on. Sorry, chat. Sorry. I know. We got dead air right now. Live TV. Let's put this. Oh yeah, we got the black screen again, but give me a second here. Guide. Watch live. There we go.
Out of the country during those wildfires. But still, there are plenty of people who believe that the city let them down. The Los Angeles Fire Department, for some reason, didn't have a strike team or a brush unit where there had been a fire just days earlier and had been reports it was still smoldering. That appears to be inexcusable. LADWP had a reservoir that was dry. The fire hydrants went dry. So based on...
Okay. Here we go. I think this is it. Yes. Oh, we just need audio. Hold on.
If you're away in a family
Yes,
member
we
in
got
an
audio.
accident. But I think that I deserve a second
Okay.
term, and I'm
All right,
gonna
all right,
fight
all right,
for
all right.
that because we have made significant progress in a variety of
Okay,
areas.
we got
For example,
audio
homelessness
and
was
video,
year
bootleg,
after year.
streaming.
And under my watch, it is the
We got the
first time
tele,
we had a decrease in street
the
homelessness.
LA mayoral debate. Let's watch it. Let's watch Karen Bass, and then we'll see if we have enough energy to watch the second governor debate at 7.
Housing, because our number one issue in this city is affordability. And one of the main drivers for affordability is housing.
Right, so let me follow up on the fires,
Sure.
though. One gets the impression, based on what we saw, that you prioritized wages and benefits, a hike in the salaries of the firefighters union over the operations budget. We saw those pictures of those engines that were inoperable because they didn't have enough mechanics to fix them.
Well,
was that a mistake? Explain that decision.
Let me just say, first of all, the primary problem there was that the chief sent home 1,000 firefighters. We actually had fire trucks with not enough firefighters there. So yes, there were fire trucks that were broken, but there were also fire trucks that were out of use because she had sent the firefighters home. You are correct. There was supposed to have been deployment and pre-deployment in the area. That did not happen. But the same way that LA was not prepared, neither was the county.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Bass, Mr. Pratt, this question's for you. Your desire to run for office for mayor of Los Angeles, really born of your own experience. You lost your home in the fire. You lost your neighborhood. How does that really color your view of what needs to happen at this point? And how does that help others moving forward?
Yes, thank you for the question. To the Mayor Karen Bass's, the 1,000 firefighters.
Okay, this is the one
that
guy,
were available, but there was
who
no
was a
engines for
famous-
them because of the $17
was he
million
on?
dollars that Chief Crowley had asked the mayor for 9 weeks before, and Mayor Karen
Yes,
Bass
this guy was on the
denied it.
hills,
So
right?
They may have been available, but they didn't have the equipment they needed. Not to mention Janice Quinones, who Mayor Karen Bass put into a position of
Pratt,
power
yes,
at the LADWP. She drained both of these reservoirs that these firefighters needed to put out these fires. A lot of people will talk about climate change and hurricane force winds. The winds in the Pacific Palisades never reached higher than 40 miles per hour. For those first 6 hours, they didn't go above 27 miles per hour. So without those two reservoirs filled with 117 million gallons and 5 million gallons, these firefighters had to fly all the way to Malibu and Encino to get water. So that, to me, is the most dangerous thing that the mayor put us up against.
Mr. Pratt, a follow-up here, though. What would you do moving forward that would make this better 2 years from now if we face the same situation?
Well, first off, as mayor, I will never drain the reservoirs that we need for wildfire protection. There's this conspiracy now that they're empty, that they were for drinking water. But if you research it, they were actually made for wildfire protection. As mayor, I'm going to add 20 dip sites all around the communities connecting to pools. So God forbid the water system goes down again, these dip sites that will be connected to individuals' pools will fill up for the helicopters to have water.
Mayor Bass, do you have a response to that?
Absolutely. He's saying several things that are completely inaccurate. First of all, there was one reservoir that was out of commission. He is correct. 1 million years ago, it was for wildfires, but over the last 30, 40 years, it's been for drinking water. He talked about the winds. That is just completely inaccurate. If that were accurate, then the planes would have been able to fly. And so the winds reached close to 100 miles an hour, and the planes were unable to fly. So if there were reservoirs, if that reservoir had been open, it would not have worked. We had 2 other reservoirs totaling 8 billion gallons that were available. But could not fly.
Yes, she mentioned me. So she's an incredible liar. Everyone on their phones, Google it. 40 weather stations in the Pacific Palisades.
I can't believe he's running
for
mayor.
She is referencing the Altadena fire.
I have to interrupt you. No name calling,
She just
please.
lied, though.
Yeah, but no name calling.
She called me a liar.
I don't believe she did. I did not hear that.
Oh my God.
I did not.
We're not going to debate this issue. We have a question now for Councilmember
This is
Ron.
the state of our debates. This is our state of politics. We are now having to remind candidates not to name call. That's crazy. We can't have anything normal now. This is crazy.
Before that, because this seems like it's more reactive rather than proactive. So any motions you introduce before January 2025?
Yeah, so my name is Nithya. I'm a council member for the 4th District, representing a huge percentage of the hillsides. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm a mother of young twins. I'm an urban planner by training, and I've been in this role for about 5 years. And in my role as the council member for a hillside area, we have to do a lot of work preparing for really extreme weather. Before rainy seasons, actually in the past, mudslides have been the biggest issue in my district. Entire homes have gone off of their foundations, and we go in advance and make sure that traps are cleared, that areas are available for flood and clearing. We do brush clearance and make sure that all of the departments and all of the interjurisdictional areas that are supposed to be doing brush clearance are actually doing that work. Before this set of fires, we sent out an email. We made sure that we were connecting.
But is that enough, just sending an email, especially for your district, the Hollywood Hills, Encino? That's a very big fire.
Jared said, this issue is important, yet no one has an actual answer other than Bass is bad. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like Karen Bass is just running the, oh, well, everyone's blaming me, and I did my best despite everything, but it's like still the narrative is out there so much that she sucks or she handled the situation poorly.
And I will always keep doing, but really it is the mayor's role to be prepared and to coordinate before and during and after emergencies to ensure that the city is ready.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
As I said, we have a lot of topics to cover tonight. The next one is public safety. LAPD is reporting the overall crime rate is down, but people repeatedly say that's not their perception. They do not feel safe.
Who's
We're
saying
seeing yet
that?
another series
Just
of
the
home
media is saying
burglaries in
that.
the San Fernando Valley. And just today, federal authorities arrested at least 18 people connected to a drug trafficking investigation. They called it Save MacArthur Park. Mayor Bass, you have 60 seconds for this. Who ordered this operation with the feds? Is it a sign that our communities are not safe?
No, actually, that operation was ordered by the feds. However, we have been working in collaboration because we were very well aware of the drug dealing that was taking place there. We have used a comprehensive approach when it comes to MacArthur Park. Multiple things are needed. And so what happened a couple of hours ago
right. I think I'm
was
gonna
an
stop this.
action
I'm
that
gonna
had
stop
been
this.
in the works for many, many years. But
this is not sparking joy. Let's go to actually
Without even knowing that
the
there's
County
other
of San
options out-
Bernardino Board of Supervisor meeting that happened yesterday. Let's check that out. That, at least, we know the characters. we know the
Collectively,
cast.
these participants completed an impressive
And we know
21,912
it's not going to be
hours
2
of
hours
real
long.
work experience. We're here to celebrate a future workforce that is talented, diverse, and deeply connected.
Supervisor Armendariz. Yes, thank you, Chair. Lots of exciting things happened in the last couple of weeks in 2nd District. We
we're able to tour a veterans retreat center that's being built currently in Mount Baldy. Excited to see what's going on with that. Hoping to build some sort of collaboration.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm so sorry, chat. I'm all over the place right now. We should. Okay, NBCLA is doing that. We should actually watch Jesse Armendariz. There we go. I want to see his stupid little podcast with sheriff, with basically San Bernardino County's version of Chad Bianco is our Shannon Discus. And oh my God, okay, this is a 40-minute podcast. I can't believe board of supervisor has a podcast. Homie got 23 views. Congratulations.
Absolutely, Jesse. Thanks for being here. I know we're partnered in a lot of things that we have going on right now, and I'm anxious to talk about them and all the good things going on in our county.
Yeah, when I think about like getting this opportunity to actually sit down with you and do a podcast, I always think of how there's so many people who they know the sheriff, but they don't know the sheriff. And I've always said, and I say this to a lot of people, I go, when you know the sheriff's heart, you really can get behind everything he does, and it makes total sense. The passion you have when it comes to people and, are homeless and are drug addicted. And some of the things that we've partnered on is because we have similar values and we share that. And I want to kind of take a moment to kind of just touch on that. And maybe if we can go a little bit back, and what gave you that fire that you just are so compassionate with how people are treated and how you want to see these people in the community just thrive versus what we see today in society?
Well, really, to me, it's a global picture. Obviously, when you think of sheriff, you think of cops taking people to jail.
Oh, yeah.
But it is that jail piece that makes this a 360-degree viewpoint of what's going on in society. And what I mean by that is, how do we help people while they're incarcerated? It's a mandate for the sheriff to run those jails. So with that being said, what are we doing in there for rehabilitation? And then what do we see from a street view as it relates to what could the deputies be doing out there to get these people off the streets and get them into the help they need?
Yeah, and I've seen that, like, when I first came in the office and I had the pleasure of sitting down with you, and, you were so focused on saying, we have to help these people. We have to get them, remember the term is, people who are rotting in their own flesh or in their own skin. And,
what? People
and
who
really
are
put that
rotting in their
perspective.
own skin?
That's how I've looked at it, where, we have all these people who I call them more like zombies. They're just there, surviving. How do we get those things in place that we can get them the help they need if they want the help, right? Because at the end of the day, it has to be a want. We can set up all the best, platforms, but if they're not going to take advantage of them, there's not much more we can do. But our hands are also being tied by the state, right? Where there's only so much we can do with them. So as we start building these systems like the Navigation Center in Fontana that we just signed an MOU for, how do you see things like that actually benefiting to help you do what you do in protecting our communities?
Well, excuse me, it's capacity building. So in that capacity building, Jesse, what you are providing at the end of the day is for us to place these people. And there are things that have happened since you and I have been talking. Proposition 36 is one of those, where now we get the courts involved. And what my dream would be is to see a system where we have somebody that's addicted. And in our county, there's usually that comorbidity with mental health issues. Getting those people before the court and having the court put them in these medical facilities, not jail, but it has to be a lockdown environment similar to what you and I would use with our insurance programs, where essentially they're saying, hey, you got a 90-day lockdown to dry out. People need that level of help. Right now, we only have facilities that are outpatient. Well, if you're not there and immersed in the treatment program, there's a high likelihood you're going to be doing narcotics if you're addicted at the same time. So having a navigation center that will point out some of these things and also give the court, for lack of a better way of explaining it to the public, a menu of services. Now the courts can sentence people to that rather than sentencing them to jail. Because it's just been my experience, particularly with mental health issues, that some people that have mental health issues actually degrade in jail. Because of the isolation and other things that are occurring.
Yeah, I can only imagine, you're in jail, your mental health is not going to get any better, bro. Jeez. That seems like a little bit unrealistic expectation. That's a big ask for these people incarcerated to have good mental health in jail. Jesus Christ.
Saying that, we actually had the pleasure of doing a tour of the jail a while back to see how you guys are incorporating the mental health care at the actual jail. Like, so you're actually working with people while they're in jail and trying to give them the help they need to get that mindset, I think, is how I would best describe it. What inspired you to actually go in that direction and say, we're going to give them the help while they're here too? Because I noticed when I was doing my tour of your jail, you're helping them there too while they're in with you.
Yeah, that's something traditionally sheriffs do. This is why I appreciate this opportunity coming from you, is sheriffs as a whole, people don't realize that we have a foot in both camps, the rehabilitation camp. And we have to have that. And I'm not just saying that we're mandated to do that. We have to have that. And then it's my
Maybe
goal
y'all
that
should
those
be
people that want a
mandated
second
to do
chance can
that.
actually turn around and do it. And what you and I and our partnership are providing is really that transition in capacity from incarceration. What have I done with them while they're in to treat a mental health issue, an addiction issue, and then you providing the capacity on the outside for that transfer. So it's that continuity of care that this county provides. What happens is a lot of time people will serve their sentence, get out of incarceration where they're in that environment, they're dried out and things are good, but go to what? Nothing except their old behavior. And so we're filling that gap, but we're doing it in a much more organized manner. So when you say navigation center, even the name is synonymous. We're taking them from one environment and navigating them directly into another environment and staying with them. And I think that's really important about the staying with them part and giving those resources, those continued resources, because, handing somebody a bag of pills related to their mental health problem, I've just seen from our experience and my deputies' experience, and I'll say kind of a selfish point, those deputies, they're going to respond to the same intersection where that person was acting up because that's where they know to go to. Let's break that cycle and do something different.
And I think we've seen that a lot in San Bernardino County, especially with your leadership and us trying to collaborate on making sure that we have all the tools we need to be able to assist you so that you can do your job effectively. Behavioral health. We're seeing huge changes right now in San Bernardino County with our behavioral health. As a sheriff, what more would you want to see from our side that we could be not just the partners we are today, but be better partners, and what kind of stuff?
Bro, is this
explode the deficit
podcast or?
Jesse, what I like to see, and I call it cultural change, and the sheriff's department went through the same culture change with prison realignment. And we just saw things early on that really together we have to be united in providing resources and really, frankly, sharing resources. And this is kind of a weird concept when you really talk about it to the public, because law and justice partners exist to cooperate in terms of the system, but also be checks and balances for each other. So now when you bring public health and the Department of Behavioral Health in as a law and justice partner, that is this resource piece that you're talking about. So the cultural changes that have to occur to understand what cops see in the streets, that street view you and I talked about earlier, and getting that cultural change to be, we've got to be a 24/7 environment, which cops have always done. Having behavioral health now doing some of those cultural changes to be able to provide a family a phone number to call at 2 a.m. and not just having it rely on cops. You and I've, you and I've talked in depth about a couple.
Oh wait, hold on. So this is the location. This is the transitional. What did they call it? Navigation system. It's just a warehouse. It's a tiny little warehouse. What is this? Like, this is where people are supposed to live, or like temporary stay? Okay. Okay.
Couple of shootings we had of juveniles that were in crisis, and looking back, hey, what could have changed? And you see that the cops have taken them and put them into behavioral health resources, and only to find out that they didn't get what they needed, or the time was delayed, or whatever else was going on. And then parents don't have a number to call a mental health professional that they can get a hold of for a different reactionary piece. This particular family had depended on the sheriff's department all along to do this, and unfortunately it's just in the moment of crisis involving weapons that changes the whole dynamic.
So what I'm hearing is, at the end of the day, it's, if we're going to be those partners we need to have those 24-hour services like you do. And we need to make sure that our behavioral health, public health are ready to take that on and actually be that partner that when we're going to go through this, we're going to do it together, and we're going to make sure our resources are going to be available as long as yours are, because yours doesn't stop, right? Like you're a 24/7, 7 days a week business. We can't say, oh, well, between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., sorry, sheriff's closed down. We'll open back up at 5 a.m. You guys don't have that luxury. And I feel like that's where, if we're going to change our environment, we have to look at it the same way. From our hospitals can't close down, our firemen can't close down, our behavioral health is just as important. It's really partnering with you and figuring out how we do that and have the right message sent and have the right resources available so that we can be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week organization when it comes to our public and behavioral health. And I know it's going to start smaller, but if we can create that model, I feel like we can show the state this is how you deal with not just your homeless, but you're dealing with your homeless, your substance abuse, you're mentally ill, and we're showing them how we can do that if we just bring the dollars in up front, and it'll save us dividends down the road, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a change in government. We're siloed. Department heads are siloed. We all have our specialties. And again, selfishly, we go out and protect the public. We arrest people. You can say that cops don't belong in the mental health environment, but when we're confronting these people in the streets, how do we have a better way to do that and better partnerships to fix those issues before they go into crisis, number one, but also have a system to include the courts. This, you mentioned it, government. How are we performing efficiently through the arrest, or not even the arrest, the referral, And maybe that goes to court. And there's other things too. When we go back to that statement about seeing people rot in their skin, Jesse, I'll be honest with you, from a completely human standpoint, the old way of arresting people and taking them to jail for their mental health issues and particularly for their drug addiction, that whole piece was more humane than what you and I are seeing now in the streets. Because until Prop 36 passed, we didn't have the ability to make those arrests anymore. So these folks would languish in the streets. And at the same time, I'm not advocating to put them in jail. That's not even close. Yeah. But it really focuses on the capacity issue. With Prop 36 passing, now involving the courts, and you and I have talked a lot about what are the numbers in San Bernardino County. It's about 2,100 folks that have that comorbidity between addiction and mental health. And how do I know that? Our HOPE team does this. And we talk about cultural change. That was a culture change for us, was now having a team that's specifically contacting these people and trying to get them help the best we can, even with the limited resources that were out there.
And can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's one of those important things. Talk about the HOPE team, because I think there's a lot of people who don't realize that we have these resources out there and that this is something that you guys put into practice on your own. It wasn't something that was led any other than what you guys wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I mentioned a little bit, but right after prison realignment, we realized we were going to have these things. We started to see it with Prop 47 passing. And what the key thing for that was, a lot of people focus on the theft side, you know, all the retail theft they were seeing. But there was the whole narcotics portion of this, where you took the serious drugs and moved them from a felony to a misdemeanor. So when you do that, it essentially makes it a citation. People aren't staying in jail, aren't going to court, aren't getting mandated treatment. This citation goes up. And on average, we were seeing about 6 to 7 failures to appear, more crimes being committed before that person was held to answer. So it was this revolving door. So what HOPE was doing is trying to go out there, do the interventions, connect to services, and really be that segue or bridge to the services, because at the time there was nothing else. And again, going back to we are a 24/7 entity, things are getting better in our county, though, and largely because you know, you've paid attention to a number of these things. You've realized that these gaps exist, and so some of the partnerships that we're making together are really affecting change in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think where mine came from, what a lot of people don't realize, is because I have family members who have substance abuse issues. I have family members who have mental health issues. And when I was trying to get their help before I was ever a county supervisor, seeing all those gaps, you know, kind of opened my eyes to, we can do more, we should be doing more, but what did that look like? And until I got here, I wasn't able to sit there and really dive into it. And, you know, talking with you and talking with other people, being able just to figure out how we bring those resources, you know, that's how the pretty much how the Navigation Center came to be, I think, was how do we help more people? How do we get them in a place where we can hold them for a minute, where we're going to make sure they have all the resources they need if they choose. And I always say that because in my mind, it's a choice, whether you're, you know, when they talk about our homeless who take 70 interventions before they decide if they want help, you know, it is a choice, because at the end of the day, you know, we can give them the tools, but if they don't want the tools, it doesn't really matter. We're just spinning our wheels. But what I try to tell people is, but more importantly, it allows you to do your job, because now there's no excuse for them. They can't sit here and say, oh, well, I don't have housing, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Well, no, it's available to you if you want the help. And if you don't, then we're gonna enforce the laws. Transitioning on that, you know, me and you, I know we're both big fans of River's Edge Ranch. Do you want to talk a little bit about it and tell what was inspiring to you about it?
Well, I'll tell you why. Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you why I'm a fan. Is number one, their success rate is high. It's over 80% success rate. I've been in this business a long time. I'm going on my 35th year. To find that type of success rate is very nil. And I'm going to go back. I was on the Board of State and Community Corrections. And when we talk about Prop 47 and really understanding the complexity of all this, a lot of Prop 47 grants would go to these nonprofits. The problem with the analysis of that for me as a board member was this is self-reporting. So we would have them self-report what their status is and not have that, okay, you know, prove it to me kind of auditing concept. With River's Edge Ranch, it's different. You can contact them. They're going to say who, why, where the person's at, and it's going back to that connection to you, frankly. While this is out in the rural area of Lucerne Valley, the ranch is, and it's got a little bit more of a heartfelt connection to me too, because of the cowboy aspect of this. And really, when I say cowboy aspect, I'm talking about a lifestyle and a work ethic and things that come along with that. And then more importantly, jobs come along with that. They're dealing with cattle out there. They learn how to take care of those animals. They're dealing.
Wait, what the? Is this a rehab or is this a horse raising place? I literally Googled Riverside's Ranch, and all I'm getting is like this 1998 website. It's a fan page of racehorses. Welcome to Riverside Ranch, owned by Mr. and Mrs. Donnie and Cindy McCraw. Home of my final notice, my sleepy Valentine, my chips are hot. Oh, these are the horses' names, right? Mighty Mouse and Standing Machine. What? Is this for people or is this for horses? Because this, oh my God, my Sleepy Valentine's fan cam poster. It is this, brother. Oh my God. Oh, Wait, stud fee? Oh no. Is this for horse breeding or oh no, Hank. What are these horse like posters? Oh my god. Okay. Oh no, there's the breeders. Oh no. Okay. I thought okay. Maybe that's not it. Riverside Rancheros? Maybe this is it? No, it's Equestrian Country Club.
of Life Church. So they're actually being able to provide these products. Felt connection to me too, because of the cowboy aspect of this. And really, when I say cowboy aspect, I'm talking about a lifestyle and a work ethic and things that come along with that. And then more importantly, jobs come along with that. They're dealing with cattle out there. They learn how to take care of those animals. They're dealing, River's Edge is primarily funded by Water of Life Church. So they're actually being.
Is that what it's called? Not Riverside Ranch? River's Edge Ranch? Oh, it's in Lucerne Valley? Oh, okay. Here, wait, let's look at the Instagram page. Oh, it's a religious thing. 20-acre ranch transforming lives, recovery through labor, animal therapy, service, and faith. Building hope one man at a time. Oh, interesting. Okay. River's Edge Ranch, not Riverside's Ranch. This video of this guy
Tyler.
drugged out, I guess.
Tyler. Tyler. Are you all right?
I don't know if this is real or not.
Just lay there and go to sleep.
My name's Tyler Logan. I'm the director of a program called the River's Edge Ranch. My goal is always to be a resource to our community, to battle addiction through the power of Jesus Christ. Can I get an amen? So I struggled with addiction for a long time. In high school, I was part of the opiate craze. By the time I got out of high school, I was going to rehab.
Oh, so a slave camp.
If there is a rehab in Riverside or Orange County, I've been there. You name it, multiple times. Once fentanyl hit the streets, I started overdosing regularly.
Okay, that's him on fentanyl.
Ended up losing my job with the Ironworkers Union. I totaled my car and I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. So an opportunity was given to me to go to a program called the River's Edge Ranch. I had no money. My family had completely cut me off. They were not going to pay another dime for rehab. They had just succumbed to the fact that I was going to die one day, and they were okay with it because I just couldn't get it together. I couldn't get it together because I didn't have a walk with Christ. That's the truth.
Sorry.
So I was brought to this program. You know, I remember calling them on the phone, and they were like, "It's $600 a month." I was like, "I can't afford that." They're like,
he's working.
"Don't worry about it. We'll sponsor you." So we have never denied anybody for a financial reason. So I want to say 90% of the guys that are there right now do not pay a dime. When you first walk into the ranch, on the wall is Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron. There's a gentleman here, where's Brad? Brad right there, he's our COO. He did my intake, and that is my best friend.
Okay, well,
in the whole
listen,
wide
if all
world
of
right now,
these
and my coworker.
young men got it
That
together,
is my brother in Christ, and that's because we went through the
got
ranch
off
together. We
whatever
went
they
through
were
trials and
on.
tribulations together. The ranch promised me if I got through my year commitment, it's a year-long program, that they would help me find a new job, they would give me a car and a place to live. And here I am, the director of the program. So,
well, yeah, they sure gave him a job, huh? Wow. Okay. Yeah, it is giving Nepo baby.
Thank you, I appreciate it, truly. All my nerves just went away after you guys did that. Seriously.
Okay, all right. So that's a director, a former drug addict who's now. Oh, there's a woman's version of River's Edge Ranch. Oh, look, there's Jesse Armendariz. Oh wait, I think that's copyrighted music. Okay, they're just okay. Huh. I don't know, man. I feel like we're gonna have a lot more drug addiction going on. If anyone saw that John Oliver special about the gas station drugs, That's crazy. Worse than opioids. Damn. Okay. So this is it. River's Edge Ranch is a heavy focus on Christianity, but you know, you got to do oh, Jesus is king. Um, you got to do something. Yeah. I get that this is why Jesse Armendariz is so supportive of them because is a Christian thing. And I think Jesse Armendariz, I think he goes to Water of Life Church. Hold on, let me go Google that. I don't remember if it's in Rancho Cucamonga or in Fontana. Yes, it's in Fontana. Water of Life Community Church. I know I'm pretty sure this is the church Jesse Armendariz goes to. Oh my god, you can watch their sermons? That's crazy. How many locations do they have? Fontana, Upland, Agua de Vida. Oh, that's in Fontana too. Okay. Where the Riverside Community Center in I don't even know what this country is called. AU? Is this Australia? Weird. Okay. Let me just double check. I think Water of Life Church has an Instagram. Okay, whatever. Whatever.
Being able to provide these products that we all need back to the congregation who funds them, and at the same time learn real skills that are employable.
Yeah, what took me was when I saw the whole program and heard about it. I actually had a friend who reached out to me who his son, over a football injury in college, got it from Oxy, went to heroin, went to fentanyl.
Jeez.
Family found out. They were trying to find help for him. They reached out to me. I'm like, well, I know River's Edge, and called Doug Whiteman, who's at River's Edge, and I said, I got a friend. Do you guys have any room? He's like, we have to interview him. If he wants to help, we'll get him the help. And just seeing that transition when they interviewed him, he was at a place where he wanted to get right.
Wait, Jared said, "Oh yeah, Australia has huge addiction issues." I had no idea.
Way too often I see nonprofits.
Why? Why are Australians
who go out there who claim to do good work, and like you said,
Is it?
there's no accountability.
I mean, I don't know. There's so many assumptions I can make.
We have to be held accountable one way or another.
Australians have addiction issues. That's
We have to
crazy.
show that there's something tangible coming back from it, and that was my biggest frustration when I came in. I mean, honestly, as a county supervisor with a lot of nonprofits that we are funding for homeless, I was like, where's the accountability? Where's the rubric that shows that they're making any headway? And so,
well, and I know you're a businessman, Jesse, but come on, that's really common sense for you to want that when you come in, right? And I'm in the same place. So I think we should throw more money at those that are actually making a big difference. But how do you know? So that auditing process, and not somebody telling us how good they are, but seeing how Shannon Dykes, for instance, 6 months after a program is still performing, still engaged in society, still employed, and going through the process and really standing them up. If we're being true to the county vision, basically that cradle to career, how else do you do that? And I think some of the things that you're investing in is 100% foundational to the county vision. And it's proof that we are all doing the right things and we're working together to be able to accomplish those things. And it's my job, while you are the purse that helps take care of these things, it's my job to be that informational point, to take Street View. How do you put it in there and try to take some of the complexity out of this as it relates to the court systems? You and I've talked about conservatorships. Well, in certain circles, that's a bad word, right? You're thinking about locking people up. But a conservatorship can be something as simple as Shannon Dykes can't take care of his checkbook and his Social Security benefits that come in. But Jesse, you're my conservator, and you make sure that I don't just errantly spend my money. So now I keep the roof over my head. I pay my bills. That's a conservatorship. And involving the courts and identifying those people that are willing to help and putting the legal system behind this to keep that continuity of care is where we need to be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I said, I share with people, I make it very public. I have family with mental health issues, and we're at a point in our life where we can't help anymore. Like he's gotten to that point where the conservatorship needs to take place. And so walking through that whole process and seeing how many hurdles there are to push us away from it, working with, whether you're working with behavioral health and all these other, I'm getting a firsthand of all the frustrations we've been talking about for the last couple of years. I'm getting a firsthand visual of what that is, because every time I'm trying to help somebody, I'm dealing with those issues. I'm like, okay, this is what Shannon must be going through.
Well, and it is. And we obviously go through it on a larger level because not too long ago, I took some statistics, but about 16,000 of the calls that the deputy sheriffs go on are related to mental health, don't even have anything to necessarily do with a crime. So when you're looking at the amount of time they're spending on that, and when we do refer people, and don't get me wrong, Jesse, there are a lot of good programs. We actually have counselors embedded at each one of our stations now. They call it the TEST program. And those folks who have deputy, even on graveyard, goes to a call, and let's say it didn't take law enforcement interaction or taking that person into custody, like on a 5150 or something like that, you still refer the TEST counselor to that person, and then they start giving them services. So there are really good things going on. It's just understanding the whole system, how we can do better. For all of the supervisors, I know you guys want us to perform at our best efficiency.
Jared said, I may be wrong.
It's really hard to explain.
I see gambling and opioid ads when watching Australian baseball.
Practical experience. So I don't.
Damn, that's bad. That's bad.
Coming and trying to explain what deputy sheriffs are experiencing.
Yeah, and I just, for me, it's just been great to have.
I mean, if they're like America, what else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do? Drink beer, have a barbecue.
To stand alongside me because I didn't know.
When you can't drink beer, you do oxycodone.
I said I wanted to figure out a way to deal with mental health or drug addiction. I didn't know who I would be, my adversary, or who would be my best friend, and to know that you're just as passionate has helped me tremendously when I'm out there and I'm trying to advocate, because I can always say, look, my sheriff supports us 110%, and I'll use little stories from tidbits of times where we spent together. You know, I use the phrase all the time, you know, people rotting in their own skin all the time. That's, if there's anything that stuck with me from any of our conversations, that was just so embedded because it was such a real visualization of what we are seeing in society. And so I've loved partnering with you. I think one of the other things that I wanted to make sure we address, you know, to kind of digress from this, I feel like we could talk about this for 2 hours. Seat, you know, you have a program. We have the seat heat coming up right now. It's our sheriffs, employees. Talk a little bit about that. Talk about what the benefits of that program are, because we're a huge supporter of that. From a second district point of view, we're a big supporter. But personally, I even donated this year. I actually donated from my personal bank account $1,000 because I felt this is going to such a great cause. But I want you to go just speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Jesse, I'll go back a little back into history, but I want to touch on something that you said that I don't think the public always realizes, and it is the sheriff. The elected position of the sheriff is I am their voice. I'm their voice about how they see public safety, how they want public safety handled, and we have to abide by the law. Well, the sheriff has that broad view because of the jails and the people and the complex environments they have, and all these things, whether we're talking about seat, whether we're talking about the partnership with River's Edge, they all fold into one another if we're clicking on all cylinders and doing the right thing.
Jared said, LMAO, the function is missing beer. Better break out the PCP. You don't keep emergency PCP when you don't got any more brewskis? I thought this is... I mean, this is Australia. You gotta have PCP to fight off all those bugs. Jeez.
And I know that there's a push to get rid of elected sheriffs. And I never want to see that happen because I want our public to have a direct voice so that the sheriff can talk to you like you and I are talking right now and be able to relay that experience without politics being involved. This isn't a red or blue thing for me. It's the right thing. Going back to that statement about people rotting in their own skin. I mean, let's face it, we're all driving in certain areas and we see this, and it's almost become commonplace in California. So how does the human condition evolve to that when it should be something entirely different? So that's kind of near and dear to me. But going back to seat, I'll start with where it happened. It started with the friendly barbecue competition, and what we wanted to do is put a fund together. So heaven forbid if we had a crisis in our department with family members, and you know we've had line of duty deaths in the department, we needed a funding source. And we used to have the Sheriff's Council and still do have the Sheriff's Council, and that is one volunteer group that does not answer to me as a sheriff, and that was purposeful because they would do fundraising. And if we ever had a problem like that, I could call the council and they could provide that immediate funding. Maybe it's hotel rooms because we've had a tragedy or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's not bad.
And that was great, and it worked well. But what we wanted to do was even take it into what you're talking about is kind of the wellness levels. What are the other levels of that? So we started station against station barbecue across this entire county, started putting money into that fund, turned it into a 501c3, and then now we put it in combined giving. So out of our paychecks, we're contributing to that. You as a supervisor are contributing to it. And we have a substantial amount of money there. And where we've seen that completely partnership and expand is the wellness of our deputy sheriffs. And as you can imagine, the things they see on a day-to-day basis, this affects you. You and I talked about the mental health related shooting of a child, a 15-year-old, right? Well, that particular deputy that was involved in that has a same age child closing their eyes. And can you envision yourself, shooting your own child because you're presented with that situation? So there are a lot of wellness issues that we need to make sure we're very good at with our folks. We've got the Counseling Team International involved. We have an app so you can do these things anonymously and be able to contact them. But wellness
I'm so
for
glad cops have anonymous mental health apps. So blessed.
also full circle. What are we doing? And really, when I say cops, we could be any county employee, but we have different ways of investing, our 457 accounts, who's financial literacy, making sure they understand that, making sure going to the gym, staying healthy for your entire career.
Bro, if we could get if we could get public county gyms, that would be so amazing. I would sign up for that. I would pay for that. I'd cancel my Planet Fitness membership and get a county gym membership.
Talk right now. I like to talk with my hands, but it reminded me that I'm even wearing an Aura ring right now. And some of these, bio indicators of your body, how you sleep in this case, but wellness, being more in tune with what's going on with you personally, so that when you are out there on the streets, you can be
and then that's
the
a tax write-off for them. They just expose themselves. Yeah, it's crazy. I know. I was just looking at this document. It was a press release from 2024. From Jesse Armendariz, and basically, okay, February 6, 2024. Today, San Bernardino County Supervisor Jesse Armendariz, with support of the Board of Supervisors, has successfully secured $10 million to support new homeless housing project, with beds expected to be provided as early as the summer of 2024. Blah blah blah. One of the flagship projects successfully securing $5 million is the CityLink campus located on the corner of Arrow and Citrus in Fontana. This transformative initiative, developed in partnership with Water of Life Community Church and the city of Fontana. So it's like, okay, I'm like, I told you, homie was, he was or is a member of Water of Life Church. And it's like, I don't want to make a big stink about this because ultimately it's helping homeless people, but we do need to keep some eyes on this. Like, funding for Water of Life to use for certain things is okay, but like we really, really, really got to have eyes on this, because that's scary. That's like me saying, "Oh my God, I'm an elected official now." I know a really great source of news information. I'm going to buy subscriptions to the Hasanabi broadcast for every San Bernardino County resident. Like, what? How does that make sense? Just because I think it's a good idea doesn't mean it's a good idea for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, nah. So, yeah, I was in the process of looking up to see if this CityLink, if they actually got the hotel or the motel that they wanted to convert into, but I don't know, red flag for me. The bottom of his page says promises made, promises kept. I never trust a politician who makes promises. But yeah, it's, we gotta keep eyes on these things. All right, let's finish this.
We're taking care of those things that hadn't traditionally been taken care of. And we've always tried, but I think we are really doing a good job. And with your support, we're going to continue to do that. And I couldn't be more proud. And it plays out practically in some of the things you've been directly involved in. In your district, we had Andrew Nunez get shot in the line of duty. And so how do you support Andrew's family? And while money does not fix everything, to be able to go in and take care of the immediate needs for the family so they can focus on the grief and loss that they experienced, you and I can never fix that. And you know that, I know that. But can we at least be present in the moment and provide those resources that will soften the blow somewhat? And then as we move forward, stay together with that family, support them, and make sure they're whole.
Yeah, and Andrew Newton, like, it was really real for me because he served. He was one of our detail for us. We had an event here. We had a delegation come out, and we were doing a tour of San Bernardino County, and we were in Rancho having a dinner for that delegation. And Andrew was one of the guys assigned, and I don't know what it is about meeting somebody, talking to somebody, and then to hear their lives taken, especially the way the life was taken.
Yeah.
I don't know if it hit harder to me because I met him, and so I visualized him. The laughter, that half hour I spent with the guy, which in most life, we spend a lot of half hours with a lot of people.
Jared said, "You get a sub. You get a sub."
To the point where I was able to see just a small piece of what, unfortunately, you have to go through more times than you ever want to speak of, I'm sure. And having something like this, like, see, there for those after,
What I'm describing to you is what I believe in this county, and certainly something I promote is proactive policing, getting to the criminal element before they get to the public. And so when that happens and you do that and you realize a person's under the influence of methamphetamine, let's say, and the deputy goes through all those steps and ultimately makes an arrest, that's how you find the gun underneath the seat of the car or the baggie of dope inside the car. These are tools we didn't have until Prop 36 came back. So us advocating for things and understanding Street View and how that works makes all the sense in the world to affect positively the human condition. So there's a few legislative bills right now that are very complicated. You know, we talk about immigration. You mentioned CCW. What people don't understand about immigration, you're talking about federal law enforcement authorities who have the right and are actually assigned to do some of the things that you're seeing in terms of contacting those people. Highly controversial, right? Well, now we're talking about passing laws in California when we talk about masking or these folks can't go to court. Who's going to enforce that? I'm in charge of the courts. And
Are you going
it's
to
not
enforce
enforceable
it?
because a deputy sheriff would be intervening or obstructing federal justice. And we have the same laws in California. If I were investigating a case and you came up and, hey, get out of there and do this and everything, and you're interfering with that, you would be arrested. I can't have my people obstruct justice and potentially be arrested. So it's a very complicated constitutional issue that's being talked about as a political talking point, not actually how it affects the boots on the ground. CCWs, you know, I think it's incumbent upon me as the sheriff to make sure that if a person wants a CCW, that they're able to get it. And yes, I'm a Second Amendment supporter, but it goes deeper than that for me. It goes deeper to, if you feel the need to protect your family and you go through the proper training and that's one way in which you want to do it, you should be able to do that. Number one, I am so blessed to have the best protective force in the United States that will go out there and on your worst day, they're going to give everything they got, every ounce of how fast that patrol car can get to you in an emergency situation. But we are in the largest county in the United States. And while maybe here in Rancho Cucamonga, we might be able to respond a little bit faster, think about Barstow that covers 5,000 square miles.
Oh, yeah. How
It's the
you
only
get
place
into
I've ever been in
Barstow?
at 140 miles an hour of everything a Crown Victoria would give me, and I'm still 20 minutes away from the fight. So if the person that's in the fight, their life gets threatened by a criminal and they have the ability to protect themselves, why wouldn't I let them? And I promote that. And we have good training. We have good, solid training. And so recently in partnering with James Ramos, we fortunately were able, at his leadership, extend the CCW process because, you know, you go through a lot of training to do that. To only go through the process, turn around and have to do it again. It's very time consuming. Everybody.
That's crazy. Hold on. I need to look up this CCW process because I'm pretty sure it's a concealed carry. Concealed carry weapon permits. And then he said he worked with James Ramos to make it easier to get these permits. Is that what I'm understanding correctly? I don't know, man. San Bernardino County Sheriff Department is dedicated to safety, blah, blah, blah. To qualify. Huh. Okay, we'll have to look into that more. Again, gun stuff that I do not know about.
You know, businesses, families, everything that's going on. So him noticing that and getting that extended, I'm very appreciative of that because I want to supply that service to the public should they want it.
And I thank you for it because that is a long process. People have to go through that. You know, they're in class for 8 hours. First time it's like 16 hours, I think. Is that what the law changed to? Like they had to be in there.
Yes, you're basically doing twice the educational classroom work. And
you know, for
What's
me,
wrong with
personally, if
that?
it was me and I was dealing with that.
What's wrong with that? You're about to hold a concealed carry weapon permit. Double the class educational time. We got rid of that? What?
would want that 8-hour training, but more importantly, I'd rather see a regularly use of my gun, making sure that you know how to properly use that gun. For me, it's like, you know, it needs to become muscle memory for you, like how you guys train.
Well, and it's funny, I talk about that in the
Armendariz has a
classes. I
gun.
try to visit the majority of the classes that go through because for two reasons. Number one, hearing from our citizen base as they go through there and kind of what they believe the problems are in society and what's going on helps me really move forward in our long-term plans about, you know, what we need to tackle and those type of things. I see statistics and all of those other things, but actually hearing from the citizens you serve is important to me. But we talk about that muscle memory that you're talking about. I talk about that. So one of the things that I allow people to have 3 guns on their CCW permits. And there's some people that want more than that. But what you just described
Wait. Oh my God, I guess I don't understand this. So the CCW permit only allows you to carry 1 gun at a time, right? Right? You don't need to carry 3 guns at a time, right? And then like it's just like, you know, like a parking pass, you're allowed to have 3 cars, you know, but you're only allowed to drive 1 car at a time, right? Oh my God, that'd be crazy. Here we go. Okay. What caliber weapons are accepted? 25 caliber up to 45. No 22 caliber handguns are allowed for concealed carry. Oh, okay. Okay. Can I put a shotgun and or rifle? No, only handguns are allowed to be used for concealment purposes. Can I apply for San Bernardino County if I live out of this? No, you have to. Okay. Huh. You have to do an interview too? That's good. How do I prove I reside with or rent from if? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm assuming that you can only carry one weapon at a time, because that would be crazy if you're allowed to carry three at a different time at the same time.
Your worst day, and you have to go to that. I want it to be muscle memory so they can protect themselves and their family, and they aren't thinking twice about it.
Yeah, that would be like, I don't know if you know, so I'm a huge Second Amendment guy myself, but I also am
Oh,
huge on
that's good
training.
to
I've
know.
partnered with.
Thank you, Jesse Armendariz, huge Second Amendment guy himself, with these little twigs of arms.
Gun safety.
I'm sorry, I said it.
Organizations to actually go out into the second district and promote gun safety for those who are afraid of guns, for those who have never touched a gun, for someone who's thinking about owning a gun, to someone who wants to get their CCW. Like, I want everyone to understand the value of protecting yourself, but also if you're going to protect yourself, know what the rules are.
Sure, do it right. Weapon storage, all those things that are important.
I thank you for
Jared said, "Do they know Reagan took away their right to open carry? I feel like they'd lose their marbles if they found that out." Now, Jared, educate me. I'm pretty sure, well, I don't know, but I'm guessing that Reagan did took away the open carry when the Black Panthers marched on the Capitol, right? Or was that a different time? I don't know my Black Panther history very well, but I do know that when the Black Panthers marched on the state capitol with rifles, everyone was like, maybe we should have gun regulation now. Maybe we should have some regulation for people who want to own guns. It's kind of scary when we see a bunch of black men with guns. Jeez, swear to God.
taking the time here. Is there anything else you want to touch base on while you have me here? Anything you want to put me on the hot seat on or anything?
Not really the hot seat, Jesse, but another partnership thing that I think is coming, and a lot of this
podcast.
has to do with things that you see your street view. And so one thing in the state, we recently had, and it was something that you guys had to deal with as the Board of Supervisors, but we had one of our deputy sheriffs who was involved in an officer-involved shooting where a person was trying to hit him with a vehicle in a very narrow driveway. Well, with that being said, the person, we do the criminal case, he gets...
Hell yeah. Ronald Reagan due to Black Panthers in Sacramento. Hell yeah. Pat myself on the back for that. Just call me Professor Guzman because I'm a history buff.
convicted for trying to kill the deputy. And then on the civil side, we spend millions of dollars to a person that's doing a 13-year prison sentence. I think we've lost our way in terms of the torts that are going on and how that are going. And what I worry about for you and I and for all of the citizens we serve is the money. This is emotional and passion decision. It's an insurance company can probably figure out the value of my life and how that moves forward and what is the value of that. We need tort reform. We've got to have some civil reforms to make sure we're not going to go bankrupt as a county. And don't get me wrong, we've done things wrong. When government does something wrong, you should certainly try to make a person whole.
There's an accountability factor that I don't ever want to dismiss, but you and I are lock, stock, and barrel on this. I'm actually going to be heading to San Diego after this, where I'm going to be with CSAC. And I don't know if your people, I asked for talking points on this because we just had this discussion yesterday where we need to have real conversations on this because, in my opinion, this is a gift of public funds. The hundreds of millions of dollars that we spend protecting ourselves, settling lawsuits, we could end homelessness. And this is the way I try to put it in perspective. I'm paying $20-some million on a lawsuit that the jury felt that was adequate on somebody's life. What was that life worth? And I'm not saying worth, but you understand what I'm saying. Financially, what was that? What did that look like? Like you said, there's insurance companies who could probably figure out what that value is. I mean, we have disability insurance, right? You lose a limb, there's a value associated with that limb. Maybe we, whatever that is, but
I'm glad
we're
he knows this.
Being pushed, and these verdicts are getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it could bankrupt a county, or it could also take tons of resources that could have went somewhere else. I would be. I even had said this one. I would even be more advantageous to say, okay, well, you say 27 million, that's fine. We're gonna find out what that life's worth and whatever that number is, 2-3 million, whatever. Take the rest of that money and have to reinvest it in stopping something like that from happening again, helping families, helping with drug addiction, helping with homelessness. If the person was homeless, okay, we're gonna put $20 million towards homelessness. I'd rather put it there and say we're helping people than to say that we're going to give $27 million and someone hit the lotto.
Well, and when you see the differences between a criminal case where the person's convicted for trying to kill a deputy sheriff, and then on the flip side, in the civil case, we spend that level of money, it absolutely makes no sense to me. And I think if the public were to be aware of the things that you and I have to deal with in terms of business decisions and other things that are made in the amount it's costing the taxpayer, they would be sickened, and there's a better way to do this. So as far as what you're doing with CSAC, which is the lobbyist organization for counties, just so you know, the chiefs of police and I just came back from Sacramento, talked to our legislators. The legislators are on board.
I know that's very concerning. Jared said bro is putting a price tag on life. And it's like, yeah, I get it because you got so many lawsuits. And keep in mind, these are probably lawsuits of like, you know, um, officers making mistakes and the county or the city or whatever government having to pay the price for it. And it's like, bro, when are we going to learn that we can't have these jokers keep making these super, super, super expensive mistakes? And it's not like I'm so disappointed in Jesse Armendariz saying that, people treat it like hitting the lottery, Like, yes, I'm not going to deny that there are people out there who, I'm not going to say they get themselves killed, but, they'll take a little bit of advantage of an injury, claim or something, right? But, okay, just because the county is going to get bankrupt, like it's not the county's fault. It's the people who are making these mistakes, the people that are, in these, like clearly the jury found the defendant, the person who got victimized by the whatever, clearly it was justified, legal remedies, whatever it is. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm trying to bring my best law knowledge out. But like, you can't expect all of you can't expect these lawsuits to go away. They're not going to go away. Lawsuits are always going to be around. Let's just minimize the situations that can put us in those lawsuits where we have to pay these crazy payouts to people because we messed up their lives. We messed up their families' lives. Whatever it is, that was the legal system at work, the legal system saying this is the remedy for this, harm that the state or the county or the sheriff's department did. And I don't know, man, just like that's crazy. That's crazy that they're like, we gotta prevent the lawsuits from happening instead of we got to prevent the harm from people happening. I hate that.
And really right now, if you want to say the Petri dish or the science of what's going on, look at LA County. They just had a $4 billion settlement on things. And when you have settlements that size, I mean, you're going to bankrupt government. There won't be services. And this is something that is of critical importance. I think we all need to be paying attention to. So going back to us being lockstep in terms of trying to deal with these things and still provide that accountability piece that you spoke to, that, hey, when we make mistakes, we need to...
The accountability piece should be the first piece. I don't know why they're minimizing it. The accountability should be the first thing. Let's make sure all of our officers are trained correctly. Let's make sure, no bullets are being fired without justification, like, brother, wow.
Make it right as best we can.
Yeah, and I'll be out there advocating for this tort reform today. So hopefully I can come back with some decent news, or hey, we're working in that direction. But it's good to know that the sheriff's organizations are on board and you guys were up there already. And it sounds like some of our legislators are on board with taking a look at this.
They are. So many things you and I touched on, Prop 36, the legislators, they want to fund that. And I do believe there's a bit of a wind of change coming in. It seems to be that I'll say more moderates, their voices seem to be getting louder. And I think as a public, that's what we want. We want those varying opinions. We want that good, solid debate to go through so that we land on the best things for the people we represent back in our districts, not for the political party.
Yeah. No, thank you for coming. I appreciate everything you're doing. Keep up the good work. I look forward to more partnerships with you.
This was like 40-minute long podcast, but like maybe 15 minutes of good actual quality stuff. But that's okay. This is only Jesse Armendariz's third ever podcast, so that's okay. We'll give him a pass on that. All right, chat. I am gonna hate to say that we're gonna end the stream right now, but I'm tired. I got homework to do. I really, really wanted to wait for the debate, but we still got a whole nother hour. And then, it's gonna be 2 hours on top of that. So let me say good night for right now. I appreciate everyone being in chat. I really do. Yesterday was crazy. Today, I can't wait for the debate. I'll be watching on my own. I hope you watch it on your own too, and then maybe we can talk about it the next day I stream. So, have a good one, everyone. I don't have my outro music. That's okay. Wait, we could get it real quick. Here we go. We'll just do Den's 1005. Hell yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. My name is Angelina Tucci. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back later this week. Have a good one.
Can you do a world tour? I think you guys are overestimating how known I am.